the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Curtis is back in there at quarterback. Lawton to his right. Everybody is in tight except Omar Cooper to the near side. Here's the snap. He looks for Cooper in the end zone, and he makes the catch. Indiana scores. Lawton back in the ball game. Here's the snap back, and Curtis looks, fires it deep down the field. He's got Elijah Surratt. Touchdown! Indiana is going to walk out of here with their 10th win of the season tonight.
What are we, 10-0?
You are 10-0 for the first time in program history, Coach.
Not bad.
Joe Flacco to throw on first down. Airs it out, picked off around the 23-yard line. Taron Johnson at the 15, angling left, looking to cut off a block. He's at the 10, he's at the 5, turns the corner, and he takes it back to the house. A touchdown, a pick six by Taron Johnson on the first play on offense today by the Indianapolis Colts. Flacco on a screen, it's picked off, intercepted by a defensive lineman. And that is Austin Johnson as they were trying to set up the screen to Jonathan Taylor to the right side. He was covered up by Johnson, who read the play and also picks off the pass simultaneously. And the Colts have turned it over twice with interceptions on their first two drives of the game. And right up the middle is Josh Allen. He's at the 5, and he's going to score a touchdown. Ball in near hash. Taylor the back to the right side. Ashton Dulin across the formation to the left. Back in the throw is Flacco looking. And this ball is on the turf. He was hit as he threw the ball. It's available around the 50-yard line. They're calling it a fumble and a recovery by the Buffalo Bills. Play action, backing the throw. Flacco, great protection, stands in, flies it downfield, and it is almost caught by Alec Pierce on the ricochet. It's intercepted by Taylor Rapp. Hands off to Cook, wide open, and he's going to race for the pylon and somersault his way into the end zone across the goal line. James Cook, 2-yard rushing touchdown, and that's the exclamation point here today for the Buffalo Bills.
I don't think everybody is working as hard as possible. Obviously, it's showing. I don't think the urgency is there. I don't think the details are there. I don't think the effort is there. I don't see everything correlating from meetings to practice to the games, and it shows.
Obviously, we've had 2 games that that he'd like to have back, but we'll keep battling through it and see where it goes. Until I say otherwise, right now, Joe's our guy right now.
Monday morning. Thank you for spending it with us. True Curt Cignetti fashion right there to open up that clip. Mark Dykton, excellent start there because Sunday, well, I guess at one building downtown, it was pretty ugly. At the other one, we're busy dusting off the blueprint for a statue over there by Gamebridge Fieldhouse. I'm Kevin Bowen. He is Mark Dykton on the ones and twos, and Andy Sweeney alongside. Boys, how are we?
We're good. We both of us owe Mark Dykton an apology. We had
you owe me donuts.
We had the funny bet that we thought Purdue would be able to not disgrace. Well, you more than
There's nothing funny about a losing bet. Let me be very clear on that.
Well, and I had a couple over the weekend, which we can dive into. Disgrace themselves, but I mean, I think it should just be 3 hours of Curt Cignetti and Benedict Mathurin talk. How does that sound this morning, KB?
I feel like a lot of people would be all about that.
3 hours of that, and don't mention Anthony Richardson or Joe Flacco or Shane Steichen or Kenny Moore nuking the locker room and his head coach post-game, any of that? Yeah.
Mathurin starts Sunday in MetLife. Curt Cignetti coach, it's a bye week. Maybe he could coach the Colts coming up on
Sunday.
Sunday.
Bring Cignetti up to the big stage, to the NFL. What a disaster on Sunday. And obviously we'll talk about it. We'll be open for phone calls in the 8 o'clock hour. But, the Pacers were great yesterday. Indiana basketball was great. The bad, Purdue basketball loses their big. Purdue football is going to have to fire their coach. And then on Sunday, I mean, KB, we thought it would be a closer game. We thought the Colts would be the more desperate team. Instead, what we saw was pathetic. And Joe Flacco and the Anthony Richardson stuff, just all of it at the quarterback position has been a complete mess. It's been a complete failure from this staff, including Shane Steichen. He had some questionable calls, end of the game, end of first half. It happens every single game. And now you're one loss away, in my opinion, potentially from irrelevancy. But if nothing else, Shane Steichen has a locker room problem. He's got an on-the-field problem. He's got a quarterback problem. He's got a standings problem. He's got a lot of problems as we sit here on this Monday morning.
Cannot believe that Flacco tossed a pick on the first play of the game, let alone a pick six on one of the simplest zone drops you'll ever see from Teron Johnson there. Threw it right to him, and that set the tone for the entire day. Imagine telling Shane Steichen before the game, hey, Shane, Josh Allen, he's been picked twice all year, 260-some attempts. You're going to intercept him twice. You're going to have 2 drives set up on your side of the field.
And he's not going to throw a touchdown. How about that?
After those picks, and yet you still lose. I mean, I guess you backdoor your way into a 10-point loss there. Shout out to Alec Pierce fantasy owners, if there are those out there, for the late touchdown there. Just Flacco, again, 6 turnovers in 2 games. And it's not like he's giving you anything of substance elsewhere. Whatever. Jameis Winston's probably the poster child of it. 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. Like, it'd be one thing if he's giving you something of substance from a scoring standpoint. But no, it's 2 touchdown drives, period. In the last 2 weeks, you're 7 of 23 on third down. The move that was thought to, I guess, revive this season has totally turned it in the other direction. And to me, yes, you just checked all the boxes there. Not only do you have a major quarterback question with your head coach right now, you've got comments out of the locker room that really this organization doesn't field too often. And frankly, I'll give a hat tip to Kenny Moore because he's probably the first person that's ever spoken from the heart within the Colts organization about what the issues are right now, because you don't get that from the head coach. You don't get that from anybody that is close to Anthony Richardson. But yesterday in the locker room, you heard it from Kenny Moore. I think you heard it a little bit from Zaire Franklin. You heard it a little bit from Julian Blackmon as well.
Yep.
So the questions are really endless here as the Colts enter Week 11.
Yeah, it's a complete disaster. Now, as we go today, I mean, we can talk about if you guys want to carve out a couple minutes to talk about where the standings are, because yesterday it wasn't the worst day in the world.
Standings on a Monday.
No, we're going to go. At 8:45, we'll go to standings on a Monday. Denver, they choked it away. Now, the Chargers did win, obviously. But back to the Colts. I mean, they are on the precipice, KB, of just being so irrelevant. I mean, they are sitting right there. Now, you could argue that they already are this season, and someone has to make that final spot in the AFC playoffs. But listen, people need to be held accountable, and I think that's the frustration of what you see. When you are a bad team, and I don't think the Colts are a bad team. Listen, they're bad teams. I watched a bad team at 9:30 in the morning on the NFL Network. Mark Dykton suffered through 3 hours and 20 minutes of watching a bad football team with the Chicago Bears. So I don't necessarily feel that the Colts are a bad team, but they have bad team problems that are starting to rear their ugly head. And I sat here a week ago and I said, we're going to have to start wondering about Shane Steichen. And I sit here this Monday, a week later, feeling worse about Shane Steichen. I mean, the not kicking a field goal, the end of the first half timeout, both of which I want to get into, if not 7:30, coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. And then someone has to be responsible for the botching of the quarterback position. I'm sorry. You can get away with a lot. And Chris Ballard has got away with quite a bit here and damn nearly a decade in Indianapolis. But you cannot get away with botching the quarterback. And I know there's a lot of Anthony Richardson supporters on Twitter, and JMV had a promo running for 3 or 4 days last week with the AR little muscles running around like they were right. Anthony Richardson was a disaster at quarterback. Joe Flacco has been a disaster at quarterback. This team offensively has been a disaster. And then when the quarterback does do something right, the wide receiver drops the ball. We saw it. Josh Downs drops a touchdown, and he's been fantastic. They have problems. I give Kenny Moore all the credit in the world. Something is not right. You don't bench a quarterback and never tell anybody why and expect everything in that locker room to be right. The defense has stunk it up at times, so I don't know who exactly they're calling out. They're culpable for a few of these losses. They have problems, KB, like they're a 1 or 2 win football team. And I don't know if they're going to win 1 or 2 more games the way they're playing this season. It's a disappointment. What they do next at quarterback, your guess is as good as mine. Now, who knows?
Yeah, I thought it was an idiotic decision to begin with, and I continue to feel that way. I think the past 2 games have proven evidence. I thought there was this all of a sudden mystique that like Joe Flacco was going to have a statue next to Peyton Manning here in a few weeks. I'm like, wait a minute here. I mean, this is still a backup quarterback. And what do backup quarterbacks do? High end, they win, 30% of the games, 40% of the games? I mean, that's like a dream scenario with the backup quarterback. Flacco now 8-18 in his last 26 starts. And again, you put him in the lineup to not have plays where you throw the ball directly to the other team on the first play of the game. How many times do you think they rep that play?
He's a mess.
I mean, that is a scripted portion of the game plan.
Sure.
That is the first play of the game. And go back and watch it. It is nothing. Teron Johnson just simply, it looks like a nice rep to start practice on a Wednesday. Hey, man, will you backpedal about 6 steps here and put your hands up in the air? And what happens? The 39-year-old quarterback, the wily vet, the one that is not supposed to do dumb, to do idiotic stuff, he throws it right to the other team. And then the screenplay on the second drive of the game, it'd be one thing if these are highly pressured plays where, all of a sudden, okay, guys make bad throws. I mean, Josh Allen made a couple bad throws yesterday. It's not the end of the world. But to have stupid decisions, that's what the 22-year-old quarterback is supposed to be doing out there, not the 39-year-old quarterback. So, again, it was such an idiotic decision when they made it 2 weeks ago, thinking all of a sudden Flacco was going to carry this team to the promised land, and it continues to be that way. Whether you care about short-term, whether you care about long-term, turnover machine. That's exactly what you've gotten. A win-now move. I thought your defense has played commendable football. Hasn't been perfect.
Good enough.
But they have played commendable football in the last couple weeks.
Yeah,
Jonathan Taylor runs for 120. Yesterday, your rookie wideout stepped up. A.D. Mitchell, 6 catches, 6 targets. I mean, you are getting enough from other areas. It's that position, the most important position in sports. And if you look at the AFC right now, all these divisions are led by those guys that you don't have an answer. You don't have an answer in the short term. You don't have an answer in the long term. And how you have to go back to Richardson. You have to. I don't see any other reason how you don't, unless you're nervous about what your spine looks like from, 2 weeks ago I said going forward. None of that matters.
Yeah, your words mean very little anyway.
At the end of the day, it is about, do you get that kid right or do you not? Not what Joe Flacco can do for 2 months at the age of 39. It's just such a short-sighted, narrow-minded, singular focus on thinking something was going to change of significance here.
I mean, you didn't think Flacco was going to be this bad.
No, but
he has sunk to the bottom, KB.
But to
he's
think
terrible.
that you were going to turn it around this much?
Yeah, but
and all of a sudden slam the door shut.
They think their team's a playoff team, though. They believe their roster is better than what it is. That's why you make that dopey move.
But that's what's idiotic. That is why the decision is stupid.
That's why you don't make the playoffs every year.
And that is why the organization itself has an accountability issue from top down. I mean, I'm talking to Buffalo people in the press box yesterday, and the Buffalo people were like, why did they bail on Richardson? They're like, did they watch Josh Allen's first season? Did they I mean, they are stunned. All these Buffalo people are like, wait, this is part of the process. If you're going to draft this dude with this college resume, if we did that with Josh Allen, we'd be having Nathan Peterman and Joe Flacco and all these other random quarterbacks that are starting. You have got to commit to that and see what happens. Trust your coaching, trust your development, believe in that, believe in the player that you drafted. And again, it might not go well. It might not go according to plan, but that's the investment you made in your franchise. You didn't make an investment into a 4-4 football team, bringing some 39-year-old quarterback into the fray midseason and think all of a sudden you were going to hang a banner.
They gave away one of their banners to the Pardon My Take guys, so they need to replace it with something, Kevin.
I'm just laughing because it's so bad. And I mean, you say trust your coaching. I don't trust. My trust of Shane Steichen in the last few weeks is nearly dissipated. I mean, you're down 10, you kick the field goal. I just don't know. I will get to that. They are so bad at times, and Flacco's been so bad. And I'm just throwing AR in it when he was struggling. And you're right, you play him. I understand it, but I'm just saying you combine both of these quarterbacks. I mean, you watch their games. Are you like, are they being coached by the old defensive guy who is still stuck in the 1980s and early 1990s? Or are they coached by this offensive genius that we're all supposed to be bending the knee to? Man, they have organizational problems. And whether it's Jim Irsay, whether it's Chris Ballard, whether it's Shane Steichen, whether it's a combination of all 2 or 3 of those guys, KB, the decision on Anthony Richardson to I guess the decision to draft him, how they were going to develop him, all of the Joe Flacco stuff thrown in has been an unmitigated disaster. And then on top of it, Kenny Moore calling people out. Was he calling out people on the defense, or is he calling out people on the offense? Is he calling out people on the offense? Because a couple weeks ago, we had the murmurings about Anthony Richardson. So, Nate Atkins wrote about it. They can't tell us anything on what he's working on. We're just supposed to just guess on what he's working on. They're a disaster, and they're one loss away from just sinking into the abyss.
Rick Carlisle spot on yesterday. Nothing like a house full of pissed off Colts fans to get the energy level going inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. 132-121 over the Knicks. The statue will be erected by noon today. 38 career high for Benedict Mathurin. Tyrese Halliburton, that is the Halliburton we're used to. Fourth quarter, everything he touched, frankly, turned to gold. The assists, the playmaking, got the foul line 11 times. You don't see that for Halliburton. So very, very needed for a banged-up Pacers basketball team. Rick Carlisle, of course, will join us at 8. And it was ugly at times in Bloomington on Saturday, but Curt Cignetti's bunch once again find a way. 10-0 for the first time in program history. They rise to number 5 in the polls. A well-deserved off week here for the Hoosiers before they set up the game of the year in Columbus coming up a week from Saturday.
Yeah, Pacers were great. We'll get to that. And then obviously Indiana, they need the bye week. You could tell it was a team that had been through, 3 big weekends in a row.
Mark, can you play the 10-0 clip one more time? His comment there post-game and just the head nod to the right and then looking back to the left. So much swagger from Curt Cignetti.
What are we, 10-0?
You are 10-0 for the first time in program history, Coach.
Not bad.
That's great.
You think he plans that out in the mirror the night before?
Part of me says yes, but I just think he's a gunslinger. He's a verbal gunslinger. That's what he is. That's what's, Brett Favre was a gunslinger, That's basically what Cignetti is.
Well, I don't know if we want
Brett Favre doing?
Brett Favre analogies, but nonetheless.
When I think of gunslinger, that's what I was thinking of.
Curt Cignetti's the guy you don't want talking to your girl.
Oh yeah, he'll close the deal.
Wait, I thought she was right here. Where'd she go?
Cignetti's into
He's
closing deals.
Where'd she go?
That's exactly what he is. So we'll dive into all. We have a busy morning. We got you to 10 o'clock. Coming up on the other side, why is Shane Steichen sticking with Joe Flacco? We'll give you that sound plus news and scores from overnight. Your morning check down is next. Appreciate you waking up with us. Wake up call on this Monday. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
As Shane Steichen lost the locker room, some strong comments from a captain post-game. We will play that audio coming up here in a few. Andy Sweeney, though, as typical on a Monday, it is a busy morning check.
Yeah, it is. We have a lot to get to. Let's start with the Colts. 30-20 losers yesterday inside Lucas Oil. KB, I know you were there for the entire thing. A lot of Bills fans were there. I thought Bills Mafia showed up for that game. They got a 10-point win in the end, and it looked better. Quite frankly, it wasn't even that close. It was at least a 17-point game. Let's get to some post-game sound. Shane Steichen asked by James Boyd of The Athletic, are you sticking with Flacco? Here's that quick back and forth.
Do you believe Joe still gives you the best chance to win?
Yeah, right now.
And I guess, again, why is that?
Just his veteran leadership that he brings to our football team.
All right, so Flacco was bad. We know he had the 3 interceptions. He had the fumble. Last 2 games, he has 6 turnovers. His QBR yesterday, KB, was 21.9. So it begs the question, or it did beg the question, did Steichen ever think of going to Anthony Richardson?
I didn't right there. Until I say otherwise right now, Joe's our guy right now.
A lot of right nows. And Joe Flacco, last one here. Joe Flacco, of course, with 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions, and a fumble. Not good enough ultimately in the end.
First one was a bad decision, and after that, no. But, stuff happens sometimes, maybe a bad throw. I'd like to see it, a couple of those things. But the first one was an awful decision.
Yeah, I think what's truly damning is that right there. Shane Steichen describes him as, hey, we're starting him because he's a veteran leader. Yeah, veteran leaders don't throw the ball to the other team on one of the simplest zone drops you'll ever see on the first play of the game. It set the tone for the entire afternoon, and now the Colts have lost 3 straight, 4-6, a trip to take on the Jets. Shout out to whoever in NBC mercifully flexed that game out of Sunday Night Football. All right, last night over at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, the pissed off Colts fans that made it over, they were rewarded. 132-121 over the New York Knicks. The Pacers have had one of the wilder 5-5 starts to the season. They've beaten the fully healthy Celtics, Mavs, and Knicks, and yet they sit at 500. Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, their injury situations do not sound good at all. They're going to miss a substantial amount of time here the rest of this month, and it sounds like potentially into December as well. So short-handed Pacers, luckily they have the guys wearing a lot of zeros on their jerseys. Benedict Mathurin, a career-high 38 points. You know what I love about Mathurin?
Everything. What do you not love about Mathurin?
Everything's the easy answer.
Okay.
Into the game yesterday, the Pacers are running out the clock, right?
Right.
They're trying to be very nice to the Knicks here.
Sure.
Mathurin had just missed a 3 from kind of the right wing to get to 40.
Yeah.
And there he is, mimicking the shooting stroke. He has set a career high.
I know what you're talking about.
He looks like Kevin Durant in the club.
Yeah.
Jab stepping while, all these girls are around. No. I'm going to mimic my stroke over here. Mathurin is just a hooper. All he wants to do is just score.
That's all he wants to do is basketball.
All he wants to do is basketball.
Well, guess what? They need him.
They need him a lot. And Tyrese Halliburton was equally as impressive. 35 for Halliburton. Those two just beyond outstanding. Big win for the Pacers because Friday night was ugly in Charlotte. Needed. And a quiet week upcoming at Orlando Wednesday. That's really
Magic
it.
again.
Another Orlando game.
Again, which, again, you want them right now without Paulo Banchero.
And then they don't play him to the second to last game of the season.
And
game 81.
Double dip with Miami coming up Friday and Sunday. Both of those at home.
Quickly, college football. We know what happened to Purdue losers, 45-0. The hilarity there, I was actually at a local establishment, and they had about 80% of the TVs on Purdue, Ohio State. I'm thinking, maybe you guys want to switch it up to a few of these other games.
Could I be any dumber believing
put some college basketball on?
Believing that Purdue was going to cut.
Yes, you could if you bet on them again.
They made Gus Johnson sound like his dog had just died.
It was your lock of the week.
I can't believe donuts by both of you.
It's
missed a 21-yard field goal, missed a 38-yard field goal, interception in the end zone, and a scoop and score fumble.
Listen,
do I have all that right?
That field goal kicker is going to be held accountable.
That was the best
Ryan
part of
Walters.
my sports weekend, knowing I had donuts for you two coming.
Tomorrow, I'll bring some tomorrow. Indiana winners 10-0 on the season 2015. They mercifully get a bye week. As for Purdue, just going back to them, I saw the advertisement, of course, during the Colts game like 5 times. The game of the week, 3:30 on CBS. We got the Big Ten deal and no longer the SEC. Penn State, Purdue.
Oh, boy. Dear Lord.
Sign me up.
Can we get Peacock or something for that one?
I mean, just put the game anywhere else.
By the way, the CBS national shots of Bloomington and Memorial Stadium, just outstanding on Saturday afternoon. That was, it's wild to sit here on a Monday morning like, do we debate ugly IU win over Michigan? Is that where we're at right now with the Indiana University football program? They've gotten to that level?
Yeah, I'm not ready to do it, man. They went through like 3 weekends that were just like big. Everyone's getting up for these games.
But they're winning ugly over Michigan. Indiana University doesn't beat Michigan in football.
No, they have to play their A game to beat Michigan, not their C+ game.
Not bad.
I love him.
Kurt Signetti feeling himself for usual college basketball from over the weekend. Unfortunate news from West Lafayette. Daniel Jacobson, their promising freshman center.
That's bad.
Sounds like he's going to be out for the year. Lower leg injury. He suffered Friday night in their win over Northern Kentucky. They'll have Yale tonight at 8 o'clock. Indiana was actually down at halftime to Eastern Illinois yesterday before they pummeled EIU in the second half for a very convincing win. They have South Carolina coming up on Saturday, and boy, Thad Matta's third season not off to a good start at all. Plenty of red flags in that opener over Missouri State, and that turned into a loss to Austin Peay on Friday. Not good for the Bulldogs at all.
They play tonight at Hinkle.
Yeah, they've got Western Michigan tonight. SMU makes a visit coming up on Friday.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up on the other side, the sound from Kenny Moore that you need to hear this morning. We'll let you hear that. Plus, what do the Colts do at quarterback? Appreciate you waking up with us on this Reaction Monday. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Talking about a third straight Colts loss. That's now 5 in a row, 20 points or less, 30-20. I'm pretty fortunate to even get to 20, I guess, when you think about 2 seconds to go in the game. Alec Pierce scoring a touchdown. 4-6 on the season and off to take on the woeful New York Jets coming up here on Sunday afternoon. It was a different post-game locker room yesterday, Andy Sweeney. You had Julian Blackmon, Zaire Franklin, and then the biggest name of Kenny Moore. I'd say being about as honest as anyone in the organization has been about some of the internal issues that these players feel like are there for the football team right now. And just to preface this before we play the Kenny Moore clip, and by now I feel like probably a large amount of the audience has probably heard it. Kenny was asked a question with a, hey, Jonathan Taylor had spoken earlier in the locker room. Jonathan Taylor feels like you guys are practicing well. Why don't you think that's translating to the game? So that was how it was thrown to Kenny Moore.
Interesting.
And Kenny, in a pretty emphatic manner, would not go there.
I don't think everybody is working as hard as possible, and obviously it's showing. I'm not the type to sugarcoat it, honestly. If I don't think the urgency is there. I don't think the details are there. So I don't think the effort is there, and I don't see everything correlating from meetings to practice to the games, and it shows.
As one of the leaders of the team, what do you do to kind of get things sparked for everybody?
You got to define yourself. You got to define the identity of the team. We got to look ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves how bad we want it. And honestly, just change. Turn in the page whenever we look at the corrections and everything tomorrow. And I think the thing that's back to your question, the thing that's frustrating is you letting things leak into another week. Whatever it was last week, you're as great as your last performance. But once we step out on the field again, you got the opportunity to, change that narrative. So, but to go out and do the same mistakes over and over is, I think that's what drives me insane as a player. Individually, that's what drives me insane because at the beginning of the season, we all said that week one is going to be week one. September is going to be September, but we got to do our best to be better as the season progresses. And we are in November, and I just don't see us making that jump, from September to November. I'm seeing the same thing. So I think a lot of things we just got to start addressing it and not sugarcoat or beat around the bush. I think that's what we are lacking, and honestly, it's just year to year, it's the same thing.
Yeah, well, I love the end more than the beginning. I know the beginning, I don't think, people not working as hard, practicing as hard. That's going to be the thing that people see, and that's going to be the 20-25 seconds that people gravitate towards. But the middle and back end of that, where he's talking about, issues from one week to another, the narrative for Shane Steichen has been, it's time to play our best football. It's September, then it's October, now it's early November. Guys, it's time to play your best football. Kenny Moore is calling out yet another narrative by this coaching staff that has not worked out. And then the other thing would be, who is he talking about? Who are the group of people, players that he's talking about? I don't know, KB. I know you're out there at practice every single time, but, to me, I would imagine Kenny Moore would have more of an insight into what's going on defensively than what's going on offensively. So when I hear Kenny Moore after the game, I feel like more than not, he's probably talking about his brethren there on the defensive side of the ball. To back it up, Zaire Franklin supported and echoed very similar comments post-game as well. You mentioned Julian Blackmon, and there is a difference of you're bad on the field, you're generic on the field, but it is difficult to not look at this Colts team and think there is a locker room issue. And when something like this goes on, this has been bubbling. This is not Kenny Moore angry about one outcome on a Sunday afternoon against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. This is something that is weeks old. This is something that is months old that has been in that locker room that is not right. And if you're telling me you're this generic of a team and guys aren't working their ass off, that's an entirely different thing that Colts fans are not going to deal with.
And if I were Jim Irsay, Andy, would probably be where my frustration would be at its peak on this Monday morning. I've hired Chris Ballard. I've hired Shane Steichen. Okay, theoretically, what is Steichen supposed to be good at?
Well, he's the offensive players
Offense,
coach.
quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts
sure.
did this. Justin Herbert did that, et cetera, okay? Have you watched the Colts play offense this year? Have you watched the Colts play the quarterback position this season? I don't need to remind anybody of that. Okay, let's go to Ballard. What is Ballard's biggest belief? He has such a staunch conviction. It's a huge reason why he does not use the outside of the building moves anywhere near to the amount of other teams. The locker room is holy, it is sacred. You don't, if the locker room isn't right, nothing is right. Except like
That's a great point.
So literally, you look at Ballard's biggest belief, you look at theoretically Steichen's biggest belief, and right now both of those are failing an organization that hasn't won a division title in a decade. So if I'm the owner of this company and those two guys, and the biggest things that they put on the table in front of me during the hiring process is letting my organization down, how does that not make me rethink where the direction needs to go? And I think it's awkward with Ballard and Steichen, frankly, just the hiring process and how their regimes, and we can get into that maybe more down the road, but, are they tied at the hip or not?
Sure, it's a great question.
I think it's a little awkward there.
Well, the answer should be no. If the answer is yes, then whatever.
But if we just focus right now on the present, and you hear those comments from Kenny Moore, and you watch a turnover machine at quarterback in Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson's issues prior to Flacco getting the job, what the hell is going on with those two people in my organization and the things that they believe in more than anything? I've always felt individual character with players. I get why Ballard's been such a big believer in that. I think individually, when bleep hits the fan, you want guys that are going to be self-motivated. Now, I guess Kenny Moore's maybe calling out some of those players there. But what I haven't gotten on board with this is when you run it back, I think there's more complacency that creeps in than challenging, than differing opinions and personalities perhaps bringing out the best in your football team.
It's a very comfortable situation when you bring everybody back.
Like uneasiness, that can be healthy. I think it can create a healthy tension for you as a football team. Frankly, I thought Robert Mathis had the tweet of the night last night. Robert Mathis retweeted Kenny Moore because Kenny felt the need to go on Twitter afterwards. And I wouldn't say he walked it back, but, Kenny said something to the effect of, hey, when we fall short, my emotions are high as a team captain. It's on me to help right the ship, et cetera, et cetera. Robert Mathis retweeted him and said, if everybody likes the leader, then you have a problem. This is not a likability contest for who are the captains on the Colts football team. It is a who's going to lead. And that doesn't always mean, hey, let's, rose petals and orange slices and juice boxes after the game. It can be let's challenge some people. Let's create healthy tension within a locker room. Where's that balance between you're comfortable, but you also feel like you're on edge? And I think when you continually run it back with such a similar core, guys fall into this feeling of complacency and comfortability. And maybe there's not. Hey, we did this way in this organization, and I think we should bring it here. I mean, it was full running back. Coaching staff, it was full running back. Player-wise, it was full running back. So when you do that, I think you just fall into a trap, Andy, where you don't get enough challenging and differing of opinions and those sorts of things. You rest on your laurels, which I know sounds stupid to say because what are you resting on? One playoff win in the last decade and, no division titles. It's kind of stupid to say, but that's kind of what they're doing. And that's where I've always just said, man, I feel like injecting that locker room with some different dudes, maybe different personalities, and it might not look like it's something, hey, it's the blue character trait, et cetera, et cetera. But when you've gone down the path that they've gone down of purgatory in the NFL, try something different. Ruffle some feathers a little bit. See what that does.
Listen, I'm with you, brother.
Because
I'm shaking my head over here. Let the church say amen on a Monday morning.
I think that would be very healthy for an organization that is stuck in luck.
Like every other organization does? Again, resting on the laurels, and the laurels are not making the playoffs. I mean that's what it is. There's no foundation that Chris Ballard is like, well, we made the playoffs 6 straight years. We went to 3 AFC championships, and if we could just get back to that example, it's gonna, we'll completely change things around. It's not even, KB, here's the problem. You're right that The Steichen stuff offensively, it's like, okay, we hire you to be an offensive coach. We hire you. You're the offensive genius. You can develop a quarterback and get the best out of the quarterback. And right now, he's got about, 6-7 good games out of Gardner Minshew. I mean, that's what we're going to have in 2 years to rest our hat on. What has not blown up in their face? Like, they didn't make any coaching moves, and here we are. They're worse. They didn't do anything with the defense. Here they are. They're still doing what they're doing. I mean, I'm not banging on a guy like Michael Pittman Jr., but you signed him. He has major injury issues. He's going to have a wash of a season. I mean, it's a wash of a season for a guy like Michael Pittman Jr. You know, Jonathan Taylor has been pretty good. You paid him all that money, but you know, with how inconsistent you are in offense, you're not getting the best out of Jonathan Taylor. I mean, there's 15 other teams in the league that could get a hell of a lot more out of JT. All the guys that you decided to bring back, none of it has equaled winning. Everything that you've done at the quarterback position seemingly has been wrong. I mean, right now it's looking like you drafted the wrong guy, you had the wrong plan, you created another plan. That's the wrong plan. Joe Flacco is a unmitigated disaster. I mean, that's the problem here is you have decision makers that have made decisions, and very few of those decisions are the right ones. I don't know if Liatu Latu is the right decision. Like, I'm not picking on him. A.D. Mitchell is very good. I actually think A.D. Mitchell yesterday was the bright spot of the game. He was it. He might be the only beacon of sunshine, but they have you go. Let me the running back thing. When you do something like that, how many positions on this team were up for grabs? How many guys on this team feel like there's a young guy itching to play behind them? And the answer is almost zero.
Right.
Well, the answer is zero. Right. I mean, so yeah, a player comes in here. I am going to sign with the Colts. I'm going to be the starter until the very end. I mean, if you wanted to bench someone in the secondary, who are you bringing in? You had to go get your starting corner right before the season, a guy that was cast up on the San Francisco 49ers. And it's just they so bad need a fresh look. And that means general manager, and if it means Steichen, so they need a fresh look at things from the top down. That's what this team needs.
Yeah, and again, when you say top down, I mean, this is where the accountability just is not there. I mean, Chris Ballard should not have been brought back in 2022, yet he was brought back, and then publicly, whenever Jim Irsay talks about him, he puts him on this pedestal that's just frankly a lie when you look at the resume. Whether it, again, is blue chip GM or, you know, I know we joke, but these are literally the comments. Like, Michael Jordan misses shots? Like, wait, what? I mean, that makes no sense at all when you look at the resume that you have here.
It's living in la-la land.
Sure.
I mean, it just is.
That is a good and slash sad way to put it. The other thing that kind of stands out about Kenny's comments specifically is, like, you know, you're the 29th ranked defense in the NFL each of the last 2 years in scoring defense. So how do you respond to that this offseason? Well, the coordinator's brought back.
Right.
All 11 starters are brought back.
Right.
What, 6 to 7 guys got new extensions and new deals? Like, that to me is not rewarding that side of the ball. And as much as we look at the defense right now here in early November and think, man, commendable effort yesterday against Josh Allen. You know, Allen had been picked off 2 times in 260 attempts, and you pick him off twice yesterday. You can't ignore what Joe Mixon and Josh Jacobs did to set the tone for the entire season.
Exactly.
When you start,
Spot on.
Because theoretically, this continuity on that side of the ball is supposed to give you an advantage early in the season, and yet you get absolutely gashed on the ground in weeks 1 and 2. And when you start 0-2, now it's pushing the boulder up Everest. And it's just
same with the score yesterday when it was 10-0.
Exactly.
You came back and you led in the game, but you spotted them. But
you've got to be just absolutely perfect the rest of the way. And Allen is going to make MVP type plays. He eventually did that. And, you know, that throw to end the half was
ridiculous.
Just stupid.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And then so many big. I mean, they had 13-play drive after 13-play drive to ice that game there, and just big play after big play for them, and just methodically eating up that clock. And yeah, to yesterday, Andy, like once Flacco throws the second pick, and I just started writing. I'm like, the game's over. I mean, it will. If you ask me at that point what's going to happen the rest of the game, I'm like, it'll be a 2-score loss. And I don't know how it'll get there.
Right.
But, like, you know the end result. Once you start that way, and again, you make this win-now move, and the thought process says, hey, 4-4, here we go. We need to play better. We're going to go to this 39-year-old quarterback. And yet the mistakes he makes yesterday are stupid 21, 22-year-old mistakes that is damning for the decision that Shane Steichen made. And I'll be very curious to see how Shane handles it here, whether it's later today or whether it's Wednesday. Where is that spine? Because you could go one of two ways. You could sit there and say, no, I got to stand by my decision. I've got to stick with it. Flacco's going to get it turned around and think, hey, I got to have the firm spine. Or you can look at it the other way and say, hey, part of being in this job is admitting when you're wrong and accepting that maybe the decision I made wasn't right. But letting it snowball, letting it grow, that is when it becomes a bigger issue. And I think you have people in positions of authority like that oftentimes stick with it too long.
Oh, sure.
And again,
sure.
I'll bring up what
it's all over sports.
Said in the opening segment. I mean, I'm talking to Buffalo people in the press box yesterday, and they are just stunned that they went to Flacco. Just it could not be like, wait a minute, you drafted theoretically on paper a close to clone like we did in 2018. Did nobody watch the Buffalo Bills in 2018? And if you look at Allen's career, it's not like it got a whole lot better in 2019. It was a slow developmental process, and now they're reaping the benefits. Obviously, that's a pipe dream, Andy. But at the very least, and this is where I've said I feel like I'm talking to both sides of the aisle, if you turn to Richardson now, you play him the rest of the year, and let's say it doesn't get any better. Let's say it becomes the same sort of trend we saw at the start of 2024.
You end up with 5 wins and you end up picking 5th, 6th, 7th overall. Let's assume that's the case.
And you have clarity on him.
Absolutely.
Right now, they don't think they have clarity. So they're delaying this even further. The quicker you get to that decision, the better it is for your franchise. And so in two ways, whether it's stunting his growth or delaying the answer on him, they are seriously handcuffing their franchise right now for a 39-year-old turnover machine at quarterback that has turned a 4-4 football team into a 4-6 football team, and you're hoping and praying for a blocked field goal from Kansas City, for the Texans to pee down their leg on Sunday Night Football,
which they did
in the second half. For Cincinnati to miss the 2-point conversion on Thursday night. I mean, the Colts are getting these unbelievable breaks.
The AFC helped them out. Yeah, thank God. The Colts are looking around saying, thank guys. Appreciate it.
Because right now, the 39-year-old hasn't delivered for you at all. He's actually hurt you even more.
Yeah, I think all of this stems from they overrated the team besides the quarterback. And they did it before the season, and they did it during the season.
I think they overrated both.
Yeah.
I think they overrated the team, and I think they overrated what Flacco walked into the number 1 defense in the league last year. That was a 7-4 football team.
A stud running game.
I mean, that's a
number 1 wide receiver, number 1 tight end.
From what he was walking into here. And it goes quick.
Elite head coach. Good head coach, at least.
This fan base has watched some semblance of Jack Nicklaus walking up the 18th hole at Augusta National 20 years ago way too often. We've seen these aging quarterbacks hanging on for dear life to their careers. And right now, we're seeing that from Flacco. And sure, he'll find lightning in a bottle, and for one game every 4, you'll have, oh my gosh, that's the MVP. Joe Flacco's elite on Twitter.
Yeah, everyone will have fun with it.
But the reality is,
have Matt Ryan.
That's not there. Yeah, I mean, it's nearing that, which is so sad to say.
Yeah, and then on top of it, it's like, I'm not surprised they're making bad decisions. Look at what this regime has done. And then I have serious reservations whether Steichen's the guy that can develop Anthony Richardson. That is where I'm at. Coming up on the other side, we'll take your calls. 317-239-1070. What did you think of the game? Plus, 2 plays yesterday that could have cost the Colts the game. I want your thoughts on those as well. We'll explain that after the break. Hour number 2 around the corner. It's a Monday on the Fan.
Hey, how about the effort of A.D. Mitchell yesterday? I know he had the early fumble, but still, 6 catches, 6 targets, 71 yards. Andy Sweeney, he played 60 snaps. That is 94% of the offensive action. He played 9% the previous week in Minnesota. Obviously, the Michael Pittman Jr. news came out Friday afternoon. Felt like this was a decision that, honestly, the Colts probably should have made a while back. I get that it's a little tough, and you want Pittman Jr. to show the ability to fight through it, but clearly he had some limitations. Good work from A.D. Mitchell, and now we'll see if this can kind of spark a little bit of a second half breakout for him here in his rookie campaign.
Yeah, listen, there might be some defensive stuff you could point to, but for me, A.D. Mitchell having the game that he had, showing some of that burst, right? Showing some of that route running ability that we've talked about. By far, I'm not sure it's even close, KB. By far, he is like one of the stars from the game. One of the bright spots from the game was A.D. Mitchell. And before we go to the phone lines, and I know there's a couple game items both of us want to hit on, 239-1070, I believe that A.D. Mitchell should have the same rules as Anthony Richardson. And what do I mean by that? Here's what I mean by that. If you are a believer that this season is, it is what it is at this point, okay, that we want to see Anthony Richardson. Fair enough. I mean, listen, at this point, I can understand why if the majority or almost damn near all the Colts fans feel that way, I also feel that way about A.D. Mitchell. I'm not saying he needs to be on the field for 95% of the snaps, but he needs to be on the field for more than 65, 70% of the snaps. 2 weeks ago was 5 snaps. That's not going to cut it. At this point, you're not winning games. At this point, Michael Pittman Jr. Is going to be out or is going to be a hobbled wide receiver. You have no tight ends. You have no running backs. I know Goodson had a touchdown that can really catch the ball and make you fear them out of the backfield. To me, throw the kid on the field. Why would you not? He should have the same rules as Anthony Richardson.
I want to get to some game-specific stuff here in just a second, but to focus on that here, and we'll see what Shane Steichen says later today. Yesterday, until I say otherwise, Flacco's the starter. He's 39 years old. He can't move. He doesn't create. You can't afford stupid. And right now, the turnovers are stupid. And I don't use that word lightly. They are dumb. They are young mistakes. It's not throwing the ball 32 yards down the field and a leaping safety comes out of nowhere and makes an unbelievable interception.
I couldn't believe the first 2 interceptions, KB. I just couldn't believe it.
If you're Shane Steichen, again, you've got to look in the mirror and say, wait a minute, 6 turnovers in 2 games? 2 touchdowns in 21 drives? We're 7 of 22 on 3rd down with him as the starting. Like, all the things you thought you were upgrading, you're not upgrading it, and I would argue you're significantly downgrading it. I mean, Richardson has definitely had turnover games. Don't ignore that. But you didn't think you were getting this.
No, this is a mess.
And so that's what, to me, the conversation has changed. Yeah, Flacco's our guy going forward.
Joe's our guy.
You can't ignore
right now
how bad it's been, and specifically in the areas that the 39-year-old shouldn't be giving you. The 21, 22-year-old, going to be stupid stuff. That's the reality of it. But the 39-year-old, no way.
Joe's our guy.
Just last thing on the quarterbacks, I can understand because you had game plan with Joe Flacco. Again, during these practices, Richardson's not getting first-team reps. So I understand why they're not throwing him out there and benching Joe Flacco. People may disagree with that.
Blue gets more reps than Richardson gets in a week.
I understand why he didn't go to Richardson in the middle of the game. It is still silly, and to me, it is a punishment now to not have Richardson in on some sort of short yardage situation. No, it's a punishment.
I don't
because
get it
they're punishing Anthony Richardson. It's the only reason that Shane Steichen would have a dynamic runner on his team and just not play him. I'm sorry. I know it's a gimmick. I understand it's a gimmick. But at this point, if a gimmick can help you win a football game, I'll do the gimmick instead of losing yet another football game. So, listen, 239-1070. We're going to take your calls. I want your opinion on 2 plays because I teased this. And we're playing the result here. I'll tell you what I thought in real time, and then we can go from there. The first one, it's 17-13 at the end of the first half. And I was so interested in what Shane Steichen was going to do when he got the ball with 2 minutes and 14 seconds to go. Because end-of-half situations have been sticky for the Colts. You can go back to last year against Jacksonville, and good God, there's, 3 examples this season, KB, that we can go to. End of the first half, you think of the Anthony Richardson interception, giving free points to the team. I don't know if you feel this way. Here's exactly what happened, the 2 plays. You have 1:26 to go on the clock. You can't get a first down if you're the Colts. It's 3rd and 1. And I think that's what starts the frustration. It is 3rd and 1. You have, and I know you're starting rookies on the offensive line, but you got this offensive line and you got Jonathan Taylor. Also might be a nice time to use Anthony Richardson, okay? So you can't get a 3rd and 1. You're up the middle. You get what you get up the middle. You get almost nothing. So then you punt, okay? McDermott uses a timeout in all of this. He has a couple timeouts left. If you remember, the Bills then get that completion to Ty Johnson. They get a completion, and they get a penalty against them in 2 plays. Ty Johnson doesn't get out of bounds, left side of the field. It's a 3rd and 2. Shane Steichen, by calling timeout with 32 seconds, has taken the decision-making out of Sean McDermott's hand on the Buffalo sideline and said, I'm going to be the guy that's going to be aggressive. There's 32 seconds left on the clock. We know what happens. It's a rollout. It's the magic throw on the right sideline to Hollins. There's 8 seconds left. They got the big completion. It sets up a field goal. So, by calling a timeout, doesn't mean it would have ended differently, but you did potentially aid the Buffalo Bills in getting 3 points. That's number 1. Number 2, there is 2:45 left on the clock, and you go for it. The score is 20-13, and you don't take the field goal. You decide to go for it. It's a 4th and 2. And because Shane Steichen, in my opinion, is thinking, wait a minute, I went for it earlier, and I can't run up the middle, I'm going to throw with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco gets sacked. You lose 10 yards. It then goes from 20-13 to 23-13. It's now a 2-possession game as you're in the 4th quarter, and there's no Colts fan at that point that could think they're going to win the games. I believe, and I like that Shane Steichen is aggressive, but at times he's not taking into account, in my opinion, his personnel, and he's not taking into an account that his offense is a complete mess. In my opinion, you're paying Matt Gay all the money. You kick the field goal there. It's 2016, and you have 17, 18 minutes left of football. You're going to get the ball 2, 3, 4 times maybe. Ultimately, in the end, Buffalo was able to have, like you mentioned, a couple long drives, and they won 30-20. It could have been worse. But I'm wondering what you thought about those 2 plays. I bring them up because you are a small margin for error team. And when you're giving up points or helping a team, and on top of it, you're playing poorly, you're turning the football over, you're not capitalizing, a small margin for error team cannot continually make coaching and on-field mistakes.
Joe's our guy.
Okay, let's go back to the end of the first half and start there. Taylor gets stuff on 3rd and 1. What frustrated me about 4th and inches is when they ran back out there to do the fake, try to draw them off sides. Tyler Goodson's the back, and I'm thinking to myself, there's nobody on that Buffalo defense that thinks you're actually handing the ball off to.
Yeah, plus they weren't doing like a hard count or anything. They're just standing there.
Flacco kind of backed away after like 10 seconds. There. I'm like, that doesn't look like Russell Wilson, having the play of the game to ice that game against the Commanders. So, first off, let me just blanket statement, because both of these are short yardage moments. Richardson needs to be in the game for those plays. I get that, whatever. Richardson, you're frustrated with him as a thrower. Again, there are reasons to be mad about Anthony Richardson throwing the football, and certainly no one is denying that. But he is a specimen as a runner. He gives a threat. He strikes fear into a defense. Did you watch Josh Allen pick up seemingly every single short yardage play yesterday? QB sneak this, zone read that. He's stiff-arming defenders.
21-yard run.
Dio Dengbo's trying to punch him like Tyson and Holyfield. I mean, there is just no hope.
He punched him.
No prayer in stopping him. Have the Colts run a quarterback sneak all year?
I mean, I'm sure they have, but it's not.
Have they?
I would assume they have, but I would imagine that number's not over 2 or 3.
Flacco's 6'5" and 240.
Listen,
is he not?
He's better than turning around and handing it to Goodson.
So let's start there, because again, when you kick it back to them at a minute 30 or minute 20, whatever it is, now you're playing with fire.
Minute 26.
Now, I guess this did not come across in the TV copy. They actually took that Steichen timeout away. I don't know if they didn't announce this on the TV copy because
I
had
did not.
Ton of people tweeting at me about this in the game, and you obviously just brought it up there. They deemed, and we've seen this now the last couple of weeks, a little bit more prevalent than we have in, I think, other games this season. The old replay assist has become a thing, and they deemed that Johnson stepped out of bounds.
Gotcha.
And that
Okay.
Steichen did not call a timeout there. Now, he obviously still attempted to call a timeout, so I understand where you're coming from at that. My thought there is this. 3rd and 2, or I guess 3rd and 10 is where Allen makes the MVP type play. You would just like to see better downfield defense at that moment. Adengbo, tries to sack him, whiffs. Latu tries to sack him, whiff. And boom, next thing you know, he's throwing the ball to Mac Hollins, and what a great play by Hollins to get out of bounds. All those things. They get the last-second field goal. It's a huge, huge play. So Steichen, technically did not call the timeout there. They took it away from him. But I understand where some frustration comes at that point. 4th and 2, when you go to that midway through the 3rd, I am more of a proponent in that situation of Richardson in short yardage, period. Like, them going for it, I sat there, and Mike Chappell and I try to do this before every short yardage. We try to state to each other, man of our word, out loud, what would you do here?
I love that.
And
by the way, that's what I'm doing. I'm man of my word. I would have kicked the field goal with Matt Gay.
It seemed like the defense was about to crack, and they did crack the rest of the game. I mean, 13-play drive, couple 13-play drives that really cracked. And it felt like, if you probably asked Steichen True Serum, we are fortunate to have held Allen down for this long. We're not going to be able to do it. We need 7s, not 3s. When you play, Josh Downs has already dropped a 4-point ball. If Josh Downs catches that, that's 7, not 3. There's only so many times. I could not tell you how many times watching that first half of the Houston game, I follow a lot of Houston writers on Twitter last night. They kept on saying, you're playing with fire after kicking all these field goals. You're playing with fire. You're playing with fire. Lo and behold, what happens?
Yeah.
The Lions come back and win the game on a last-second field goal.
It's unbelievable.
And I think that's where Steichen... So I don't... again, I thought Steichen's decision to bench Richardson and go with Flacco was idiotic. I've made that very clear. In-game, these two specific moments... I would say more of the play calling itself than necessarily the decision. If Matt Gay kicks it there, it's 20-16. I just still feel like Josh Allen leads a touchdown drive, and you're still 2 scores down, and you're trying to climb uphill. My decision is more of it's Joe Flacco dropping back on 4th and 2. And a week ago, when Joe Flacco dropped back on 3rd and 2 and 4th and 2, it was disastrous. And he doesn't check it down to Trey Sermon in Minnesota. That's an issue. Yesterday, 4th and 2 turns into a sack. So I would say, to sum it all up, I don't get why Anthony Richardson is not on the field in short yardage. That is a weapon.
And you're not going to get an answer.
That is a package of a talented, unique runner of the football that could possibly create a new advantage for you for an offense right now that is struggling. And for as great of a day Jonathan Taylor had, it was very feast or famine. He had the 50-yarder and the 20-yarder, and outside of that, it was a lot of negative runs.
Yeah.
And so, even that weapon is not necessarily as foolproof as you would like it to be. Why is your 6'5", 240-pound quarterback not in use on those types of plays?
All right, so I think we set the table. The Kenny Moore stuff, a couple game items, obviously all the decision-making around the quarterback. It's been a lot here for the first hour and 15 minutes. Let's go to the phone lines, 317-239-1070. John leads us off on this Reaction Monday on The Fan. John, what's up, man?
Hey, guys, I think the last time I called in, I said, talk about what's the definition of insanity, and it's trying the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And I was so pleased to see Kenny come out and say what he did, and I think he didn't say this directly, but he essentially said that this team lacks an identity, and it has from year to year. And what is continuity when you're not winning in the first place? We've talked a lot about AR and Flacco, and you all have on the show this morning. I just feel like as a Colts fan, I'm at the stage of apathy where it's not where I couldn't care less about the outcome of the game, but I know, like Kevin, you said, at one point in the game, it's going to be a 2-score game. We don't know how we're going to get there, but the Colts are going to lose by 2 scores, and that's exactly what happened. And that's just what I expect, to be honest. I didn't watch the game yesterday. My dad was in town. I was at the Commanders game. It was great. They have a rookie quarterback. He plays. They let him work through his struggles. It's awesome. I had a great time. I was checking the Colts throughout. I saw that they were then down by 10. I said, it's time to put my phone away. And that's sort of how I was taking care of myself. That's my own therapy, is not watching the Colts. So that's how I feel. I haven't felt this way my 27 years of watching the team, but there's super low expectations right now. There's no identity, and finally, Kenny, the leader of this team, is saying it out loud. I appreciated what he said. So thanks a lot, guys.
John, thanks for the call. Appreciate you listening. I don't know if you guys or our audience feels the same way, but it seems like there is a lot more visiting fans inside of Lucas Oil Stadium than I remember.
Well, this would be for you who have covered the team for more than a decade, but I mean, at times it was a very, very loud Buffalo contingent yesterday in Lucas Oil.
And I go back to, is that the apathy creeping in? I've said this quite often about turning to Flacco. It's the same movie we've watched for the last 5 to 6 years with a different lead actor.
Yeah.
I mean, to boil it down simply, you're going to get to some sort of 7, 8, 9 wins, whoop-de-effing-do, and you're going to be stuck in the middle of NFL purgatory, and you're going to have this young quarterback with 10 career starts. It's like, yeah, he's our guy, 2025 season ticket packages. Time to renew him up.
God bless him. I know. People don't buy into, they don't believe in who is building the team. And they wanted to believe in the new guy, Shane Steichen, the head coach, and they're losing faith in that. And you're losing games.
And I get there are fans that get caught up in when you are in that building for 60 minutes of football, you obviously get caught up in the emotions of it.
Sure you do.
And you want to win. I understand that. That is totally fandom 101. But when Kenny Moore said the year-to-year thing yesterday, I don't think he meant much with that comment. But I don't want it. I don't want that line just get thrown away. He said something effective like it's the same thing year to year. And I asked Joe Wrights when we had him on last week, do you think there's any part of the locker room that doesn't want the Band-Aid move again? Because they've done that. Ryan Kelly's listing off the 12 quarterbacks he's played with. Yes, not for long is the definition of the NFL. But when you have done this song and dance of routinely thinking short-term stopgap, Band-Aid, old, however you want to describe these quarterbacks, is going to be the answer, and yet the light at the end of the tunnel is nothing. I think there are some guys in that locker room that actually look at it and think, wait a minute.
I think there's a lot. I
thought we committed to the young guy.
I think it's a divided locker room over the decision. In fact, I'd go as far as saying I think it's an unpopular decision.
I think it
what
is
happened.
And so that's where I think there's this misconception of you think, hey, you're sending the wrong message to the locker room by starting Anthony Richardson and patience. It's like, well, the other side of the coin hasn't worked for you. So you're going to continue, hopefully flip to that side of that coin, or you're going to try something different. You're going to try something new. You're going to do what Buffalo did. And again, it's worked out. I thought yesterday was just a reminder of, again, Allen wasn't perfect by any means, but he made a handful of plays that 3 or 4 quarterbacks, period, can make in the NFL. It's a reminder of that's what you have to strive for at that position. You can't strive for contentment, Band-Aid, complacency, and that's what this organization has done far too often since Andrew Luck has retired. Look at the quarterbacks leading the AFC divisions right now. It's Allen, it's Mahomes, it's Jackson, it's Stroud. Those are the types of quarterbacks you've got to go out and try and find. Right now, it doesn't look like Anthony Richardson is that guy. But find that answer, get it here in 2024, ideally, and then move accordingly. Don't waste an offseason, because right now, it looks like 2025 is going to be a wasted offseason.
Yeah, but here's your problem. The Colts were not in it for the losing. They just weren't. They felt like they were if we can make Anthony a little bit better, we can make the playoffs. That's what they thought. They were wrong. I'm saying every decision that they have had has been wrong here. I mean, they have egg on their face from potentially the time they drafted Anthony Richardson to the current day. It seems like every decision or plan that they put into action has been the wrong one. They didn't think they were going to have to take it on the teeth for a year to get Anthony Richardson around. They thought they could win 10 games, make the postseason, and help their young quarterback along. And that's just not the case.
Let's go to Brandon. Brandon's been waiting in a little bit here. Hey, Brandon, how you doing?
Hey, guys. I've listened for a while. I haven't called in. I enjoy the show. You guys doing okay today?
We are doing, well, I guess, okay.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to get over my Purdue football bet, but nonetheless, what's on your mind, Brandon?
Well, I just wanted to say, I think the other fans are coming in from other teams because the fans are getting tired. Ever since the Bill Polian's been gone, we deserve better, and I think Chris Ballard has been a waste. I'm sure he's a nice person. I don't wish anything bad on him, but he doesn't really do much. And then, red flag is whenever Anthony Richardson checked himself out of the game a couple weeks ago, said I'm tired. I've never seen that my 43 years of living. I think this team's got major issues. Who's going to be the owner? Jim Irsay or his daughters or what? Because we need to get back to what we used to be. The fans deserve better.
Trying to predict thank you, Brandon, for the call. Trying to predict what Irsay is going to do is just, that's where, there's so many things say you fire Chris Ballard. So many things say he should not have gotten an 8th year. I made it clear in 2022 as that was unfolding. I thought he should have been gone then. So I've almost, I guess this sounds weird, Andy. I've almost become apathetic to the firing Chris Ballard talk. Well, yeah, that should have happened multiple years ago.
Right.
And so
it's silly for me, especially someone who's been here for a little bit more than a year, to rail against Chris Ballard. Y'all been railing against Chris Ballard for 5 years.
So to me, it's why, what makes me think now Jim Irsay is going to change? And that's why I bring up, and I did this, back last segment, Andy, of okay, the biggest belief Ballard has, locker room, culture, all that. Well, listen to Kenny Moore's comments postgame. Okay, the biggest belief Shane Steichen has, offensive football, quarterback. Well, did you watch the game yesterday?
Yeah,
did you watch the first play of the game?
Yeah, it's a mess.
So,
it's always a mess.
That's where, again, if you're the owner of the operation, how do you not look those two in the eye and say, wait a minute, what am I not seeing here? And the overall Ballard blueprint, I've disagreed with. I don't think the blueprint is the right blueprint to try and build a sustained success winner. So if you're Irsay, you could A, question his blueprint, or B, you could question what he does believe in and how that has turned out. And that hasn't worked either. You can disagree with the blueprint, or you can disagree with the actual execution of his said blueprint, and neither of those are working out. So, yes, again, common sense would probably lend you to think the Colts need to do some very aggressive cleaning of the house. But it's Jim Irsay.
Yep. That's why this is why Colts fans are unhappy.
Right.
Is what you're talking about. That's why. It's not losing. It's not even, and part of it is the quarterback. It's the fact that you don't feel that there is any road that this is going to change. You can yell and scream about Chris Ballard. You don't in your heart think he's going anywhere. Plus, we don't know what Jim Irsay wants at quarterback. I don't know if Jim Irsay was the one that said from up top, oh no, we need to make the playoffs this year. We have a playoff roster. Let's start Joe Flacco. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know what his say was in benching the 22-year-old quarterback. I don't know. If you told me his fingerprints were all over it, I would say, sure, he's the owner of the team. I wouldn't be surprised. You want to do a check down?
Yeah, that's the other part that is messy with it all. It's just we've had past Irsay involvement.
Sure.
And is this happening again? Those would say no, that are close to Jim Irsay, but I how do you believe that,
It's a great question. Yeah.
You laugh, but
it's impossible to believe.
Laughing's the only other option, or else you cry.
That's the reason I'm smiling. It's just what are you going to do if you're a Colts fan? That guy did it right. What was it, John, our first caller? He's like, I'm going to the Washington Commanders Pittsburgh Steelers game.
And again, I'm not acting like if you turn the keys back to Richardson, that all of a sudden you would have, hey, put the Matherin statue, make time for the Richardson statue too. But do you get clarity?
You would gain data right now. You're not doing anything.
Answers. This season was this season was so much about Anthony Richardson answers. And instead, I'm sitting there with the binoculars in the press box like, is he putting his helmet back on? Do you think he's going in? Wait, who's talking to Flacco? I literally had to tweet out after the third drive,
I saw
Joe
it.
Flacco's going back in the game.
I saw it.
I felt the need that people cared about that.
Well, it definitely was a question. Let's get to a check down, Mark. Let's go. We'll keep taking your calls. Obviously, go to the weekend coming up as well. 30-20, that's your final. Bills over the Colts. We'll get you more sound as we go this morning in the 9 o'clock hour. Again, the Colts now currently, if you care, the 8 seed right now. If you even care about such things, they get the Jets coming up next week. Let's go to college football. A busy week in college football. You had Purdue embarrass themselves, 45-0 your final there. Now 1-8 on the season are the Boilermakers. Indiana 10-0 on the season. They continue to be perfect. 2015, a hard-fought game. They got the win. Now a bye week for Indiana. And then a game that I know everyone was locked into. The big game, the night game, Notre Dame 52-3 over Florida State.
So Notre Dame this season has given Purdue its biggest loss in 137-some years of football, and Saturday night was the second biggest loss in the 120-some years of Florida State football.
Mike Norvell fired everyone after the game. So there's your college football.
Mark,
there you go.
play it one more time.
What are we, 10-0?
You are 10-0 for the first time in program history, Coach.
Not bad.
Good for him.
Just picturing him one more bathroom break before they run out of the tunnel. All right, I got to make sure I have this right for post game here. Kurt Cignetti in Kurt Cignetti form. All right, speaking of great form, how about the Pacers last night? Boy, it was needed. Benedict Mathurin, a career high 38 points from him. The erecting of that statue back on, folks. Tyrese Halliburton, very needed. 35 points from him. He had a step back over Karl Anthony Towns right in front of the Pacers bench in the first half. That was one of those shots where it's like, oh boy, this is going to be a big Halliburton night. 11 foul shot attempts for him. That's not a number you typically see. Those two were great. Andy, the sad reality right now with the Pacers, 5-5. But the injury situation.
Oh, it's scary.
The update
it's scary.
from Rick Carlisle yesterday was Aaron Nesmith will not play until sometime in December at the earliest. And Andrew Nembhard is going to be out at least 2 weeks. And if you look at December, 9 of 12 are on the road. You'll have some in-season tournament games we still don't know about. But boy, the depth going to be tested. Ben Shepherd going to be leaned on heavily here. And obviously Mathurin is going to be needed big time. So great win, but that injury news yesterday, not good for the Pacers at all.
Indiana basketball won, Purdue basketball won, Butler basketball lost, and Purdue lost their center for the season. So Daniel Jacobson out
Purdue
for the
and Butler
season.
in action tonight. Indiana's got the week off. South Carolina.
Yeah, I saw that. I was confused. Indiana, no middle, no Wednesday, Thursday game for Mike Woodson and company. All right, let's take a break. Coming up on the other side, our GOATs of the weekend, who had a good weekend, who had a bad weekend. Plus, we'll keep taking your calls. 239-1070. Appreciate you waking up with us. Reaction Monday, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
I'm still in awe over the first offensive play of the game. Did Joe Flacco really throw it right to Teron Johnson? Did that happen?
Boy, I tell you, teams know. I forget who I was reading this morning. It was someone nationally. Teams know that Josh Downs is going to be the guy in this offense, right? I mean, there's no tight ends.
But let's not act like that was some blanket. I mean, that is a simple zone drop. Joe Flacco's got a clean pocket. Andy, that was a clean pocket. That's the first play. How many times have you scripted that or talked about that all week long? Here's our first play of the game.
I know. Listen.
And he throws it.
It's supposed to be your best.
Right to him.
Supposed to be your best few plays,
and
not the one that turns into a pick
that's
six.
Their nickel. I mean, that's that's a guy you identify pre-snap where he is.
Yeah, the two guys, it was him and Kenny Moore were really highlighted. I thought the CBS crew did actually a pretty good job during the game of highlighting Kenny Moore and how he was playing. Then obviously a couple plays later he goes and has an interception. We'll get to Goats of the Week here in just a second. 239-1070. Frank up next on the Fan on this Monday. Frank, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys from Pennsylvania. How you doing?
What's up,
Frank? What's up?
Hey. So I've been watching this team since they moved here from Baltimore, and I just can't get my head around. I can handle losing. I've seen enough of it, but I can't figure out what the plan is, and that's what's driving me nuts. And I have to get your thoughts on whether there was something behind benching Anthony Richardson other than the best chance to win. Because it just doesn't make any sense. If best chance to win is your motivation to go to Joe Flacco, then like you said earlier, why aren't you putting Anthony Richardson out there on 3rd and 1, on short yardage, in goal line packages? That gives us the best chance to win, does it not?
Frank.
We agree, Frank.
Could not be more spot on.
Appreciate the phone call, buddy.
The why is the most confusing. You ask Shane Steichen, you ask Jim Bob Cooter, you ask Cam Turner, offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. I mean, you get nothing. You get nothing from a clarity, transparency standpoint, none of it. And so you move to actions, right? Okay, well, the actions are he's not playing. Frank brings up a win now moment. What screams to you that Joe Flacco as a dynamic 4th and 2, 4th and inches option? None of it. So that's why when you ask me, Andy, like, or people ask me, like, is this an Irsay mandate? Is this a benching for tapping out? All of them, I initially shrug the shoulders that I'm doing right now because I'm like, you have plenty of reasons to think or believe that.
Sure. Anything you say, like, yeah, that could be it. Sure. Why not? I mean, that's how much information. Nate Atkins wrote about it over the weekend. They won't even tell us what AR is supposed to be working on.
Yeah, it's painful listening to them describe why Anthony Richardson is on the bench or what he needs to do to get his starting job back. Right? That's why I thought the Kenny Moore comments were so refreshing. It was the first time I felt like we've heard honesty and transparency from anyone associated with the Colts in quite a while.
Yeah,
Joe's our guy.
And because of the past, you cannot sit there and just blindly trust the organization. Some organizations you can. Not again, this one.
Which is sad.
Yeah.
Which is just flat out sad. And that's why, the Steichen conversation for me on this Monday is, wait a minute, the 6 turnovers, it's not like he's throwing it again 25 yards down the field and he's trying to create a big play here. We're talking just boneheaded, stupid quarterback mistakes that you can't have from the 39-year-old. You know you're not going to get some other stuff from him. Okay, that's fine. But you can't have this. And that's where I think the conversation today has got to be very honest. And sure, I guess you're going back on the decision you made a couple weeks ago, but at the end of the day, sometimes swallowing your pride is the best move or the best mode of operations when you're a head coach.
317-239-1070. Mark, do you want to go to the weekend here? Let's fire it up. The good, the bad that was this weekend. I think I have a couple that might make you guys smile on this gloomy Monday. Go ahead, hit the other.
Who is the GOAT?
I told you all that I was the greatest of all time.
Jordan, here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good!
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Or GOAT?
This guy sucks.
Of the week.
After a Colts loss, we start with the lowercase goats, and you're listening to them right now. It's me. I am an absolute idiot. I'm a dumbass. Why the hell would I bet on Purdue football?
And you're adamant about it. You almost looked at us like, come on, it's
They
38. What are you doing?
A 21-yard field goal.
Ugh.
A 21-yard field goal.
Ugh.
They missed a 37? The other one?
Number one, it's funny that Ryan Walters is still kicking 21-yard field goals being a 1-A football coach. But anyway,
That too.
I mean,
They
come on.
Fumble for a scoop and score. Like, I was still feeling somewhat good about it until that one.
I know.
They throw a pick in the end zone. I forget what else I missed.
The pick in the end zone did it for me.
45-0. I needed one. The 21-yard field goal turned into a touchdown.
One touchdown.
One of them.
One touchdown. One lucky play. That's all you needed. That was the game. That was the cover. One lucky play.
I am an absolute idiot.
I know.
Your lowercase go to the week is me.
All right, so here's my bad from the weekend. It's funny. I told you guys the Giants and Panthers would be the toilet bowl. It was the toilet bowl. It lived up to everything. I know locally Tyrone Tracy fumbled, but it wasn't that. And Mark, you'll enjoy this. They're singing Country Roads. That's the song now the Germans think that label all Americans. They're singing Country Roads. And who is leading this song of Country Roads in Germany? Machine Gun Kelly.
Oh yeah,
that's right. Machine Gun Kelly is he's the one that's representing America, along with Bryce Young and Daniel Jones. Is Machine Gun Kelly? Now you can't act like you have a gun on a celebration in the NFL, but they will have a guy named Machine Gun Kelly. Who's he dating, by the way? He's a vampire, you know.
They still together. Was Megan Fox?
Yeah, Megan Fox.
I was going to say the one that's super attractive.
Yeah, remember they like drank each other's blood and stuff. Like they're crazy people.
well,
but anyway,
you could do that, or you could do mayo and coffee.
Who is the American that is leading Country Roads to the people in Germany? It's Machine Gun Kelly. That's my bad of the week.
There's a couple ways I can go here. Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron should be fired into the sun for another week after just an abysmal.
It feels like we're going to get some sort of firing today.
Something needs to happen. Since the bye week, the Bears have put up 15, 9, and 3 points. Oof. You looked absolutely dreadful against the New England Patriots.
And they looked good for a couple weeks, Mark.
Yeah, they did. And then the Hail Mary against the Commanders happened, and they've fallen off a cliff.
It ruined them.
They stink. Changes need to be made. I don't care about they've never fired anyone in midseason. You need to make an exception because the team is lost. Caleb Williams is staring off into the sun while Shane Waldron's smiling at him after he just got sacked for the 9th time. Get him out of there. Also, Jerry Jones with the whole sun at AT&T Stadium, pissy.
That was awesome.
Well, we need to just build a new stadium, knock it out. No, Jerry, put some damn curtains up. It's not that hard. My God.
He blamed McCarthy for it.
Boys, my capital letters GOAT of the weekend. It came on Friday night when news began to break that, wait a minute here, a plane has been sent back to Auburn, Alabama? Because there's been a fight on the plane. I thought that was a part of a private plane. You could do anything you wanted, right?
I love the guys like, yeah, we need to get back. We need to turn around and come back. We have basketball players that are fighting, and tell Auburn to have a cop there.
We might need to play the call from the cockpit. It is wonderful.
Great. And then they won the game.
Traffic control.
And then they beat Houston.
That is why Bruce Pearl is my GOAT in all caps.
God bless him.
There's no. If you would have told me on Friday night, hey Kevin, you're going to read this story, and it's not going to be an onion, I would have said the first guess would have been Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers, and they're going to go to Houston and then win the game. That's the full Bruce Pearl experience
without those players.
The man that wants the IU job more than I want to play Augusta National. He is Bruce Pearl. They send the flight back. They kick the players off the plane, and then they go kick Kelvin Sampson's ass.
Yes, they do.
That is Bruce Pearl. That is Auburn basketball. I absolutely love it.
All right, I'll be quick here. We're up against it. Did you guys watch College Game Day from Baton Rouge by any chance?
McAfee was on one.
Okay. McAfee got the LSU crowd to chant something multiple times.
That wasn't Fire Brian Kelly.
The next chant?
Yeah, and he's my good of the weekend because Pat McAfee
Saban had no idea how to react.
Is very openly having things said on ESPN that have never been said on ESPN. And guess who's going to do something about it? Nobody. Not a damn person. I mean,
We've got Tom Rinaldi doing a story on Ben the dog that has passed, R.I.P. to Kirk Herbstreit's canine there. And McAfee's getting the crowd to chant things that ESPN never thought they would hear.
Yeah, basically. Go ahead, Mark.
Mine is from Sunday Night Football. The Detroit Lions and Jake Bates having 2 kicks.
The Jake Bates story is wild.
Through the uprights last night. Those were intense kicks. They literally went through by like inches, and the Detroit Lions moved to 8-1. They are the best team in the NFC, and I am pulling for them to go to the Super Bowl.
I am too.
Mark, am I seeing this
I am
right?
too.
The Eberflus press conference has been pushed back an
Oh,
hour. An hour and
don't
15
tease
minutes.
me like that.
The old
Don't get me all excited.
The old pushing of the press conference. Never good. He might be fired. He might
Give
be
me
fired.
something to cheer about on a Monday.
239-1070. We'll keep your calls going. We'll play that Kenny Moore sound again at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, and then KB's going to get mad at me. I'm just going to bring up something that you don't want brought up, okay? Just for a second. Is
Makes
that
me
okay?
nervous. That makes me
should.
nervous.
We'll do that on the other end. Thanks for hanging out with us. It's a Monday right here on The Fan. the playoffs, but they would be an 8 seed, and they have the tiebreaker over the Cincinnati Bengals. I know you don't want to talk about it, and neither do I, but I need to mention it this Monday morning.
Can't do it. I can't.
Yeah, you can.
I can't. Not on a Monday. I can't.
What about Tuesday?
Monday is 24-hour reaction period to the game. Maybe.
Maybe on
Talk
Tuesday?
to me then. Tune in tomorrow. That'll be the ultimate tease.
Let's have a bell Tuesday at 8:45.
Nope.
We'll ring a bell.
I'm not going there.
And we'll see if KB can do it on a Tuesday.
I was told the move was to win now. I was told that the schedule's going to get tougher. We need to play better. Well, what's happened? 3 straight losses, and your quarterback is playing losing football for you.
And listen, if you're going to start Anthony Richardson, I would argue that you do actually start him this week. You don't have the Lions. You're at the Jets. The Jets' defense has given up. I mean, flat out, they gave up.
Again, I guess I'm sadly bending the knee to you here, but if you do want to look at the schedule the rest of the way, I was shocked to see the Colts are a 3-point underdog to the Jets.
I'm actually not. The way they played the last 3 weeks with Joe Flacco, I'm actually not surprised.
Have you seen the Jets?
Yeah, but
I
they've lost
seen the
6
Jets.
of 7.
I've also seen the Colts.
What was yesterday? 34-6.
31-6.
31-6.
And they
were, got their doors blown off by the
They were out of the
Cardinals.
game.
They can't play defense
game.
without Robert Saleh.
Well, I mean, he was a good defensive coach.
You are starting to re-enter territory of like, does below average beat really below average? Because that's what the Colts did against Miami and what was the other one? Tennessee, maybe?
Yep.
You're starting to get back into that territory of opponents. The Lions really is the only one the rest of the season.
Right.
When you look at the schedule.
Yeah.
So I just, you're not wrong.
I know.
But I can't go there on a Monday.
No,
I can't because we were sold something different.
No,
we were told
I want to vomit.
everything's going to be evaluated.
Oh,
We're
sure.
making this win now move.
Sure.
Well, what was evaluated? Because the only thing that changed was the quarterback. I mean, that was it. Play call is still the same. Personnel still the same. Nothing at the trade deadline. Nothing happened outside of Richardson bench, Flacco starting.
Does it sting a little more that the Texans look very beatable at the moment?
But that's the AFC South's mantra. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, Houston right now, last night, they didn't have probably their second and third best player, Nico Collins and Will Anderson Jr. And they haven't had Nico Collins for a month, and the door's cracking open, and yesterday they blow this huge lead. So, yes, it does
CJ
sting.
Stroud has not been very good.
But that's the sting of, this division. It's not like you, Andy, if I said, hey, you're the or the Vegas Raiders, and you haven't won a division title in X amount of years, well, yeah. Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Right.
What do you say in the AFC South?
It makes it...
All these franchises have won multiple division titles since you last did.
It makes it way more frustrating. In a big picture AFC, you're right, Mark, with the Houston Texans. And then just in yesterday's game, you also let the Bills off the hook. I mean, the Bills go out there without Amari Cooper and without Keon Coleman. I mean, Josh Allen is out there throwing to Mac Hollins, who doesn't believe in wearing shoes.
Yeah, that was wild.
That's who they're throwing to.
Yeah.
I mean, the Sharif guy's fine, but again, they're two main guys. You're not taking advantage of, yes, the Texans. That's a big picture AFC South, or in the microcosm, you're not doing that on any given Sunday, and you didn't do that last Sunday. Let's get Paul in here before the top of the hour break. Paul, you've been waiting for 45 minutes. We appreciate it, man. How are you?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Good.
All right. First of all, before I get to the Colts game, Kevin, you have a twin somewhere out there because at the IU game on Saturday, the guy sitting right in front of me looked exactly like you.
Well, maybe it was me.
No, it wasn't you. He didn't have any facial hair, but he looked exactly like you. Now, anyway, back to the Colts. That very first play, if you watched it, Alec Pierce was wide open on the sideline. I don't know what Joe Flacco is seeing. I don't know how a coach and a general manager can say somebody is off limits, and then you have no thoughts of going to somebody who would create a spark, at least change the momentum of the game, because Flacco, the first 3 drives should have been interceptions. If you look at that, the drive where we got the field goal, he threw it right to the defender, and Josh Gales had to break it up. How can Shane Steichen continue to sit here and say Joe Flacco is our guy right now? No. They are about to lose me as a fan. I am a diehard fan, And I don't know what's going on with this organization from the top to the bottom. Chris Ballard has screwed everything up, trying the same thing every freaking year and getting it wrong. I don't understand what Chris Ballard is doing. I don't understand what Shane Steichen is doing, why he hasn't even tried to create some plays for Anthony Richardson. Watching the game, everybody and their mother could see Joe Flacco is not the answer. And for Shane Steichen to continue to trot him out there and do the same thing over and over again is not only an insult to his team, but it's an insult to us as fans, and I do not like it.
Paul, as always, outstanding energy on this Monday. That was a drop the mic call. I almost just want to go right to the break.
I know, we should. You just want to go to a break?
Yeah,
let's just do it. 9 o'clock hour around the corner. We'll keep taking your calls. We have weekend headlines. Plus,
good work, Paul.
It is. Great job. What did Kenny Moore say? If you haven't heard that sound, we'll play it after the break.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Curtis is back in there, quarterback. Lawton to his right. Everybody is in tight except Omar Cooper to the near side. Here's the snap. He looks for Cooper in the end zone, and he makes the catch! Indiana scores! Lawton back in the ball game. Here's the snap back. And Curtis looks. Fires it deep down the field. He's got Elijah Surratt. Touchdown! Indiana is going to walk out of here with their 10th win of the season tonight.
What are we, 10-0?
You are 10-0 for the first time in program history, Coach.
Not bad.
Joe Flacco to throw on first down. Airs it out, picked off around the 23-yard line. Taron Johnson at the 15, angling left, looking to cut off a block. He's at the 10. He's at the 5, turns the corner, and he takes it back to the house. A touchdown, a pick six by Taron Johnson on the first play on offense today by the Indianapolis Colts. Flacco on a screen. It's picked off, intercepted by a defensive lineman. And that is Austin Johnson as they were trying to set up the screen to Jonathan Taylor to the right side. He was covered up by Johnson, who read the play and also picks off the pass simultaneously. And the Colts have turned it over twice with interceptions on their first 2 drives of the game. And right up the middle is Josh Allen. He's at the 5, and he's going to score a touchdown. Ball in near hash. Taylor the back to the right side. Ashton Dewey across the formation to the left. Back in the throw is Flacco looking, and this ball is on the turf. He was hit as he threw the ball. It's available around the 50-yard line. They're calling it a fumble and a recovery by the Buffalo Bills. Play action, back in the throw. Flacco, great protection, stands in, flies it downfield, and it is almost caught by Alec Pierce on the ricochet. It's intercepted by Taylor Rapp. Hands off to Cook, wide open, and he's going to race for the pylon and somersault his way into the end zone across the goal line. James Cook, 2-yard rushing touchdown, and that's the exclamation point here today for the Buffalo Bills.
I don't think everybody is working as hard as possible. Obviously, it's showing. I don't think the urgency is there. I don't think the details are there. I don't think the effort is there. I don't see everything correlating from meetings to practice to the games, and it shows.
Obviously, we've had 2 games that that he'd like to have back, but we'll keep battling through it and see where it goes. Until I say otherwise, right now, Joe's our guy right now.
The decision was meant to win now, and it has turned into a turnover machine for 39-year-old Joe Flacco. Good Monday morning to you. Thanks for spending it with us. It is the 9 o'clock hour, the wake-up call. Mark Dykton, outstanding on that open, per usual. I'm Kevin Bowen, Andy Sweeney alongside. Andy, it is it's not going well when Adam chimes in here and goes, completely grasping at straws and giving the head coach too much credit, but did they go to Flacco because he gives us a better chance to lose?
And I don't want to say it.
No, the year of going nowhere is going nowhere, so improving draft position, I need something to grasp onto.
You think
Adam
they have that much forethought? Come on.
Think about that. It's so bad right now that Adam asks that question with some legitimacy. Like, that's how bad it is. Like, again, it's me tweeting out at the end of the first quarter, Joe Flacco has his helmet back on and is going back in the game after consecutive interceptions to start. Like, I felt the need. Adam felt the need to send in that tweet. Fine. Perfectly fine. I felt the need to tweet that out.
You did. I saw it.
That's where we're at.
I saw it. You have binoculars up there? Is that what you do?
Yep. Probably the highest view of any in the NFL.
You got a good pair?
No, honestly, they're very old.
You got a cheap pair? You got an old pair of binoculars?
Every week I'm doing that, taking the shirt and, rubbing it on the glass.
So it's a
Get
little
off your farm and fleet and buy a new one.
So it's a little bit. KB has also you have AirPods that aren't working or they don't charge. You have this little robot that charges them. So your technology, you have old things that you need to replace.
Yeah.
So you need binoculars for Christmas, is what you're telling me.
I've had these things since the Colts last won a division title.
Oh God. Oh man, it's a mess. And I go back to with Joe Flacco. I mean, the numbers, and you gave them earlier, they're just not good. The last 2 games, he's been sacked 7 times, 6 turnovers. His average QBR is 19. I mean, that's unbelievable. The other 3 games that he played in, his QBR, KB, was 73. They're 7 of 22 now in the last 2 games on third down. So it's not like that's getting any better. And he's making, listen, this is what I got on Anthony Richardson about, making losing plays. And yesterday, and this is now 2 weeks in a row, Joe Flacco flat out has made losing plays. And then I know we're going to play the Kenny Moore sound here in a second. You have Kenny Moore sounding off on the locker room. And this team is, and I know we had fun last segment where they're still the 8th seed and look at, what the Bengals have left over and look at what Denver has left over. I brought it up.
Don't make me do that again on a Monday.
But they are right on the edge. And some people may feel they're already there. They're right on the edge of just total irrelevancy. and us talking about draft picks and draft position, and now you want to lose games, and then you get into a really difficult situation. And they let the Bills off the hook yesterday without their receivers. Josh Allen having a couple interceptions, and with the locker room stuff, Shane Steichen has a problem. And he also has a credibility problem as well, because their plan involving their starting quarterback has not worked out. And then their plan B with the starting quarterback in Joe Flacco has not worked out. It's blown up in their face, and it's made them look silly, quite frankly. And that's where we sit here before they go to New York and face the Jets.
Let's live in La La Land for a few minutes, okay?
Fair enough. Let's go.
Joe Flacco has 6 turnovers in these 2 starts. Let's act like those never happened. Okay?
Okay.
Wipe them clean.
Okay.
He didn't throw those picks. No. That didn't happen. No. Those fumbles? No, none of that. All right?
His sins have been washed away.
Right,
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Reconciliation for Joe Flacco here on this Monday morning, okay? So, Andy, that leaves 15 other drives of football that he's had in the last 2 weeks. To many, I don't know if the final drive of yesterday even counts. Do we count a 2-second touchdown to Alec Pierce?
Well, if you bet the over-under, you did.
Well,
I mean, in betting terms, when Joe Flacco threw that, I saw about 90% of the people praising Joe Flacco for hitting the over on that pass.
I was literally watching Bills players stop trying. Like, they were like, I'm not going to get hurt.
Yeah.
They stopped running after Flacco.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take that drive out.
Okay.
So that
fair
leaves
enough.
14 other drives that he has had.
14 drives.
1 touchdown. In 14 drives. If you take out the turnovers, I mean, imagine that. First off, imagine saying the statement, if you take out the turnovers. It's a ludicrous thought. Yeah. But let's just do it. Where's the good? Where is the hopefulness? Where is the, hey, if we eliminate those, we can point to that. And I bring that up to say, that's the conversation Shane Steichen needs to be having with himself on this Monday morning. If you want to live in La La Land, take away the turnover. That's not him. He's not a turnover machine, because that's what he's been the last 2 weeks. That's not him. Okay, fine. Play that game. Live in that world. Explain to me 14 drives and 1 touchdown. Explain to me that. That's where I struggle mightily right now in sticking with Flacco. Again, I have been a team long-termer, all those things. But even if you aren't that, even if you're not that sort of belief, right now in the short term, really?
Oh, it's a mess.
Why?
That's a complete mess.
And I think those are the conversations that Shane Steichen can't ignore today. And I get it. The spine, the decision you made a couple weeks ago, it might look like you're going back on your word, whoop-de-doo, all those things. At the end of the day, all that matters for Shane Steichen is this. Do you get Anthony Richardson right or not? And if for some reason you get another chance at it, do you find the Richardson decision early enough to where you can pivot as a franchise? That's what matters. Joe Flacco for 2 months doesn't matter at all.
Not at all. And I just, with the Flacco thing, the reason I wasn't against him coming in is just because Richardson was playing so bad. And I think part of me was worried that, hey, he's playing so bad that are you going to ruin him to where he just has nothing left and he's, you've ruined him one way instead of ruining him another. But Flacco has been pathetic. I think I'm almost more stunned that Flacco has been unplayable the last 2 games.
I just can't believe the first play of the game.
More so than some of the Anthony Richardson struggles. The Flacco is just flat out unplayable, and it goes back to, if Flacco's not working out, it's another guy that Chris Ballard brought in. Like, it just needs to be said. Gardner Minshew, it's great. We've been lauding Chris Ballard on here. Well, he brought in Joe Flacco. It's a great job. He brought in Joe Flacco, and that's not working out. And we've been taking some calls, and we'll take more. 239-1070 here on The Fan. I feel like there is a hopelessness with the fan base. You see teams around the league that have this, and the Colts exhibit this. There is a helplessness. There are locker room issues. There are general manager and owner issues. There are head coach issues. There are plan issues. Plan A for a quarterback. Plan B, plan C for a quarterback. And it's like, when we talk about some of this quarterback stuff, I'm like, why would I think they're going to make the right decision? In all these different ways leading up to this year, they have made the wrong decision. Yeah. Why would I believe that the drafting and the maturation and the development and everything around Anthony Richardson would suddenly be okay?
Yeah. Mom and Dad, I'm going to study now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trust me. Believe me on
you
this.
You have all D's and F's and some C minuses, but now I'm going to lock in, and we're going to get it right, and we're going to get an A in this class. And I think that's what you're hearing from Colts fans. They understand, like, hey, we're kind of in it this season. Go back to Anthony Richardson. But it's also like there's just a hopelessness of we thought the last 2 years we had been sold, hey, the hope is Anthony Richardson. That was taken away. But don't worry, guys. The hope is Flacco can come in, and we have a roster that's ready to make the postseason, and that is a fallacy as well. And they sit here, and again, you lose to the Jets, you're done. You lose to the Jets, you're done.
Ashley chimes in here. She goes, can we discuss Steichen saying Flacco gives the team veteran leadership? Dude looks like he's hating his life sitting on that bench during the game. What has he done to help anyone on this team from a leadership perspective or just in general?
It's a good question.
Flacco has been like this really since May. He made it very clear when the signing happened he was not here to be the teacher-pupil situation with Anthony Richardson, none of that. And again, if you want to put that to the side, Ashley, there's part of me that's like, hey, I think when you sign on the dotted line, I do think that's necessary. That's part of why we value you. We covet you. We're giving you these millions of dollars. And again, Flacco's always started in Baltimore. He didn't want Lamar Jackson taking his job. Even if that aspect is not there, when I hear veteran leadership, Ashley, I hear don't throw a pick on the first play of the game. That to me is where, when you are starting him, it is because you have a veteran mind, decision maker, all of those things. What we've gotten in 2 weeks is the rookie decision maker.
Yeah, we've got chaos.
Is the Anthony Richardson decision maker. It's that. And, for the first play of the game to be that, I mean, Mark, play this clip. Matt Taylor and Rick Venturi should not sound this depressing on the first play of the game.
Oh, no.
Joe Flacco to throw on first down. Airs it out, picked off around the 23-yard line. Taron Johnson at the 15, angling left, looking to cut off a block. He's at the 10. He's at the 5, turns the corner, and he takes it back to the house. A touchdown, a pick six by Taron Johnson on the first play on offense today by the Indianapolis Colts.
Unbelievable. That tomorrow, by the way, we need to play the Gus Johnson. I think it was a scoop and score touchdown because I watched every minute of that damn Purdue game. We need to play.
God bless you.
That clip. Gus,
you watch every minute of the Purdue Ohio State game. Oh no,
Gus Johnson,
you're a degenerate.
That is so. His sound, I wanted to cry. It sounded like I was at a morgue. I mean, it was unbelievable hearing him describe the fifth touchdown of the game for the Ohio State Buckeyes.
What did you not hear with the Matt Taylor sound there? I'll tell you what it was. You didn't hear Coach Venturi at all. That's how disgusted he was.
Yeah. No, that is fair.
That's how disgusted
seriously.
That's how disgusted I imagine he was the first play of the game.
I mean, it's
he's like, to hell with this. I'm going to lay out Matt Taylor. This is all yours, buddy.
Pure I mean, look at what your defense did on the opening drive. They got to stop. I mean, stops against Josh Allen's great. And yet you're down 10-0 because not because Josh Allen's Josh Allen, because Joe Flacco is making non-veteran leadership moves.
It's unbelievable. 239-1070. Matt, let's get a couple calls in here. Matt, you're up next on the Fan. Go ahead, buddy.
Hey, good morning, guys, from New York City, and initially from Indy, but here now. And so I just wanted to start out by seeing if you guys had heard if Germany had severed diplomatic ties with the United States after being forced to watch Daniel Jones.
Very good by Matt right there.
Again, Matt, they were my bad goat of the week after we had Machine Gun Kelly leading people in country roads.
Hey, those are big Bryce Young moments late for the fans in Munich. Come on now.
That's how we represented America. Yeah, I did see someone's like, Bryce Young, not terrible. I'm like, he also had 150 yards. He had 150 yards. Mitchell up next on the Fan on a Monday. Mitchell, go ahead.
KB, Andy, what's going on, guys?
What's up?
Hey, quick Greg Rakestraw moment. Shout out to the Huntington Vikings. They won their first sectional title in 31 years against Lebanon in overtime. Great game. You guys, I hope you guys checked it out. This one's for both you guys, obviously, but so I have a buddy that works security at the stadium, and he told me yesterday that they were taking away people that brought in signs that said free AR or free AR5 and hashtag all this other stuff.
Was that real?
That's real. That is real. No, I got a text about it.
What are we doing?
Yeah, exactly. Like Jim Irsay gets embarrassed and then he gets all sorts of mad and fires people. And it's a big thing for him not to be embarrassed. And then Kenny Moore is like a son to Chris Ballard / Irsay. They love Kenny Moore. He's one of the best captains that we've had in a long time. And if he's calling out the team, Jim Irsay is even more embarrassed. So I wanted to like reiterate on that. And then I had a couple buddies at the game too, and there was free AR chants and then put Anthony in chants. That's just what I've got, my 2 cents on it. Like, this is embarrassing. Irsay knows it's embarrassing. Like, come on, man. Like, give it up. Like, Ballard's got to get going.
Mitchell, thank you for the call. I think taking away the Anthony Richardson, the free AR signs is absolutely pathetic. It's the softest thing that I've ever heard. I was.
Is that? I guess it's true then.
He's not the first one to mention this.
I thought it was a joke, but no. I mean, to be fair, I did see that
true.
like going around.
Yeah, me too.
Because I mean, I know this is dumb. You're obviously you're allowed to bring signs in an NFL game. This isn't like IHSAA playoff games where you can't bring the cowbell or something. Obviously, you can bring signs. I saw a million of them for Josh Allen pregame yesterday. So, again, that's a totally pathetic, soft move by the Colts, et cetera, et cetera. The Kenny Moore point, I think, is a really good one. That is a Chris Ballard-like son, to use the phrase that Mitchell used right there. And this goes back to a conversation, Andy, we had probably in the 8 o'clock hour of the fact that you are such a huge, and this is Ballard, he's such a staunch believer in the locker room is sacred, and we have to keep that intact, and we got to make sure that we have all this great leadership in there. And then to hear those words, when you have annually run it back, it's the same leaders. I mean, if you look at them, it's the same guys year in and year out that are leading this football team. They have not. I'm trying to think of like when have they had a new captain, like outside the building?
Yeah, well, yeah.
All of them are internal.
Anthony Richardson was new, but I know,
right,
you bring in a free agency and he earns captaincy in 2 weeks.
Like,
right.
I'm dumbfounded to even think back on when the last one was. So like, you've done this song and dance, and then you hear Kenny Moore's comments, and it wasn't just Kenny. I mean, Zaire Franklin had some comments about preparation, and Julian Blackmon had some yesterday. That is where, if I'm Chris Ballard, if I'm Jim Irsay, that would be a very harsh reality to react to today.
All right, so I want to play this Kenny Moore sound. It's about 1.5 minutes. If you haven't heard it, let's play it. But quickly, before we do it, I saw this first.
By the way, thank you to Matt. Listening in New York City, I wanted to make sure
God
that
bless him.
we acknowledge
the home of truly crappy NFL football. Dominic Miranda, our guy from WTHR, he wins the Kenny Moore sound, does he not? Because he's right there behind Kenny, and he's the one that you see his beautiful face right there along with Kenny Moore.
He had an awesome reaction. Shout out to Dominic, the pride of Greencastle. Awesome reaction.
Yeah, when Kenny Moore goes, I don't think people are working as hard as they should. His eyebrows kind of raised.
He's like, damn.
We're getting real sound here. This is not just coach speak. Here's Kenny Moore after the game. The sound has obviously worked its way around Twitter.
I don't think everybody is working as hard as possible, and obviously it's showing. I'm not the type to sugarcoat it, honestly. If I don't think the urgency is there. I don't think the details are there. So I don't think the effort is there, and I don't see everything correlating from meetings to practice to the games, and it shows.
As one of the leaders of the team, what do you do to kind of get things sparked for everybody?
You got to define yourself. You got to define the identity of the team. We got to look ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves how bad we want it. And honestly, just change, turn in the page whenever we look at the corrections and everything tomorrow. And I think the thing that's, back to your question, the thing that's frustrating is you letting things leak into another week. Whatever it was last week, you're as great as your last performance. But once we step out on the field again, you got the opportunity to, change that narrative. So, but to go out and, do the same mistakes over and over is, I think that's what drives me insane as a player. Individually, that's what drives me insane because, at the beginning of the season, we all said that, week one is going to be week one. September is going to be September, but we got to do our best to be better as the season progresses. And we are in November, and I just don't see us making that jump, from September to November. I'm seeing the same thing. So I think a lot of things, we just got to start addressing it and not sugarcoat or beat around the bush. I think that's what we are lacking. And honestly, it's just year to year, it's the same thing.
I mean, it's damning. And then after Zaire Franklin, I'll just read you his quote. Zaire Franklin, quote, these guys on the team that need to learn how to raise their level of play when you get to this time in the season with so much film out there, it's not It's not to say practice isn't important. Practice is definitely important, but preparation takes hold in many different aspects. With us having such a late bye and with so many guys banged up, preparation might not always be practice. It might be how much time you spend in the building, how much time you spend in the meeting room, how much you're doing to perfect your craft. It tells me the Colts believe they have a lazy football team. That's damning for Shane Steichen. The quarterback plays damning in the offense, but if there is a thought in that building that there are multiple guys that are playing big-time snaps on this team and it's not 100% all in during the practice, fans and people, media, they'll put up with a lot. Fans ain't going to put up with that.
Well, and
that ain't going to fly.
Shane Steichen's got these core words that he believes in painted in the end zone at West 56th Street, and one of them is preparation.
Yeah. And
so for that word to be called out, boy, how does Shane think about that too? And then, you could go both sides of it. You could obviously go to Chris Ballard, who is, again, such a staunch believer in what the locker room is all about and the culture there, et cetera, et cetera. I said this earlier, but I'll go back to Robert Mathis actually retweeting Kenny Moore. So Kenny, I wouldn't say Kenny fully walked back those comments. He just says something to the effect later that night on Twitter of, hey, when we fall short of winning, my emotions are high. As a team captain, it's on me to right the ship. I believe in our team, et cetera, et cetera. Robert Mathis retweets and goes, if everybody likes the leader, then you have a problem. You said what you said. I think in the Peyton Manning era, there were probably times where guys looked at Peyton and thought, man, bleep him. You're not,
oh, I'm sure.
You're not in this business to all of a sudden, hold hands and juice boxes and orange slices and let's sing Kumbaya after every game with the leader. Tough love is real. I would argue it's very real in professional football. And uneasiness is not the end of the world. Healthy tension can be very healthy for your football team. The balance of on edge versus comfort, I think, can also be walked very well. It can be very healthy. And when you continue to go run it back and continuity and retention, you don't get different voices. You don't get different personalities. The coaching staff is pretty much the same from last season. You don't get that. And so it's just a natural human instinct where you fall into complacency. I'm almost not even faulting these guys. You're just going to have that.
And there's not a bunch of young guys who are pushing guys at all these different positions. Guys know they
just
paid,
fall in line.
They got paid. They're the starter, and they know that their job's safe.
So that's where I kind of look at it and boy, I don't really know if I should be blaming all these. Sure, you would like some self-individual accountability from some of these players, but some of it, you need to throw a different spice into the dish to really impact some things. And when Kenny brings up year to year, I know he didn't mean it this way, but I go back to the quarterback decision. And, again, I asked Joe Wrights last week, do you feel like it was universal in that locker room? Everybody wants the win now. I say that in quotes after how the two starts have gone. Everyone wants the win now decision because if you've had the Band-Aid, if you've had the aging quarterback, if you've had that, do you want to continually try to do that when you know what the end result is? We knew what it was going to be. I said to you 2 weeks ago, this season will end up with the Colts with 9, 10, whatever. Hell, they might not even get to 9 wins now. But they're going to be stuck in quarterback purgatory and drafted in the middle of round 1. Do guys really want that? Or do they want to try to do something different? To try to operate in a different manner to save your franchise? I think there's so many ways you could go with those Kenny comments.
Well, there is. It's also, if you're going to win now, the guy that you insert in the game Joe Flacco had a lot of pressure on him. Flacco had a lot of pressure to come in here and play well. And, again, it's blown up in their face. He's been terrible. 239-1070. We'll get to weekend headlines coming up here in just a second. We'll keep taking your phone calls to 10 o'clock. Let's dive into a morning checkdown quickly. Go ahead, Mark. All right, 30-20, that's your final as the Colts move now, and drop now, I should say, to 4-6 on the season. Let me give you a couple clips from Shane Steichen. Joe Flacco, he just kept reiterating after the game. He's our guy right now. So let's play a couple of those. Here's Steichen post-game on his quarterback.
I think we look at everything every week. Right now I'll go back and look at the tape, but right now Joe's our guy.
Give me the other one, Mark.
Obviously, just a guy that's a veteran guy. Obviously, we've had 2 games that that he'd like to have back, but we'll keep battling through it and see where it goes.
Again, 6 turnovers the last 2 games. He's been sacked 7 times. He's got a QBR of 19. As for Flacco, time to get back to work.
Gonna have to weather the storm. There's going to be that little thought in the back of all of our heads, until we get to play again, kind of similar to how it was this week. And you just have to go to work and immerse yourself in that and distract yourself from all the outside noise by just putting your head down and doing what you know how to do.
Joe's our guy.
One thing I do want to reiterate with those Kenny Moore comments, it's about time somebody from the organization actually spoke their mind.
Yeah, it's been 10 weeks of,
Kenny,
coach speak and crap.
Nice change of pace.
Kenny didn't need to go to Twitter and walk anything back. He spoke. He's earned the right to say that. He's earned the right. He earned the right.
Yeah.
Yesterday, he made a huge play in that game.
He's one of their best players.
So
he's a guy that I trust.
You will not hear me ripping it. I mean, that is
Agreed.
not,
I agree.
any of that. I appreciate Kenny Moore speaking his mind, and frankly, I think it's going to do, or should do, some healthy things for the franchise. All right, last night over at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, Rick Carlisle did appreciate the pissed-off Colts fans that made the trek over. Felt like the environment was rocking, and his team delivered. Much needed for the Pacers, 132-121 over a fully intact Knicks team yesterday. Benedict Mathurin, the game of his young career, 38 points for him. We will erect the statue here later this morning if you'd like to join me post-show. Tyrese Halliburton, 35 points. Got to the foul line 11 times. Halliburton in the fourth quarter, Andy, it was everything. It was his scoring. It was his assisting. Mathurin had that huge putback. Outside of that, that was a vintage Halliburton fourth quarter of just him. Everything he touched turned to gold there, as that was still a very close game, and the Pacers were able to expand their lead and finish off the Knicks. So this week it is at Orlando, and it is the Heat Friday and Sunday. And again, that was needed yesterday because it is a banged-up Pacers basketball team right now.
College stuff. Purdue embarrassed themselves on the football side. They also lost their starting center on the basketball side, so we'll watch what happens there. They have Yale tonight. Indiana basketball winners last night. Football side, great. 10-0 on the season.
Not bad.
Oh, love it. 2015 over Michigan. Let's take a break. Coming up on the other side, your calls plus our weekend headlines. We'll do it next on this Monday. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Couple other items from yesterday. Bernard Ryman did suffer a knee injury. Tried to give it a go at different parts there throughout the game, but just didn't look like his normal self. So we'll see about the availability there. I thought a few more rookie left tackle moments from Matt Gonzalez than we saw in Minnesota the previous week. And he's still way too many just O-line penalties for the Colts. And like guys that aren't supposed to be, like Gonzalez, Dalton Tucker, it'd be one thing. But like Tanner Bortolini, I mean, Braden Smith just gets whistled seemingly every week for a couple there, and I think there was a false start from him on a 3rd and 6 from the 7 one time. I mean, those things add up. 4 points here, 4 points there. That can make the difference in some of these games.
No, it can. I think it was it 30-13 at one point when they had the back-to-back penalties, the back-to-back illegal formation penalties, or was that just the last-ditch effort drive? I can't remember, but it was towards the later part of the game. The game's over, and the Colts go back-to-back illegal formations. It's like, can we just end this game? Can we just be done with it? Do we have to go back-to-back illegal formations to end this thing? Come on.
Did you have any thought they might put Richardson in for that final drive?
No.
People were asking why Flacco and why Taylor. Did you notice Taylor was out there for that final drive, too?
I saw Taylor was out there. He would be one that I would actually have a conversation about.
His ankle on that
he could have. I mean, we've seen him wrist injury, ankle injury. I mean, we've seen it. So, I would say, given that he's a running back, the game's over. Jonathan Taylor, way more so than Anthony Richardson. They're not prepping Anthony Richardson to start, and it makes me wonder exactly what is going on there. Of course, we'll never find out. So, I'm not surprised that Anthony Richardson was not put in this game at any point. Not at all.
Taylor with one of the wilder 21 carry, 114 yard afternoons you'll ever see. The 58 yarder that he ripped off, it is amazing when he gets in the open field how quickly he can get to that full throttle gear. He also had a 22 yarder, and his big playability is what makes him him. So like you can't separate those plays. But Andy, if you do, I mean everything else was seemingly just run stuff. I think 7 of his 21 carries went for 0 or negative yardage. That is way too high of a percentage, again, against the 26th ranked yards per carry team in the NFL. So I think just cleaning that up is necessary.
No, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to hit our morning headline. Should we do it?
Yeah, let's go.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
I can't read it. There's no words on it.
I'm Ron Burgundy, and this is what's happening in your world tonight.
Ripped from the headlines of the newspaper.
We'll do it live.
Post-game headlines.
Thing sucks.
Well, here's what I was thinking we should do, Mark. I'm going to put you on the spot. A listener, his name on Twitter has been Tony Footlong.
Yeah.
And he actually he reached out to you over the last couple weeks. So did Tony Footlong tweet in at all?
Mark,
do we have any idea?
Mark,
Tony
I'd like to
Footlong?
meet you in an alley behind Lucas Oil Stadium one night.
Hey, Mark, you want to meet up for a drink or
I'd
something?
like to give you something.
Tony Footlong slid into my DMs last week. He is actually in the regular.
Does Ashley know about this?
Well, that might be a therapy session we have to go through. Tony Footlong did respond.
Okay.
We could start with him. Tony Footlong has his 5 words, says, Colts turned me into masochist.
Tony Footlong coming through.
He always comes strong.
Unbelievable.
Coming through. Sean says, time to clean house. Aaron says, tough road loss. That's good, man.
Trev
Boy,
says...
it seems like so many of these environments this year have been road games.
Trev says, upper quartile of dumpster fires.
Aiden, Flacco calling for Social Security.
Jeremy, whatever's below apathy, I'm there. That's not good.
Ooh, but that is a good one there.
That is very good.
James says, is it May yet?
I know.
Is that the one you were going to?
Yeah,
is it
I was
May
going
yet?
there.
Well, here's the thing. You're talking about fans getting inside the stadium. There's only one more chance of that happening. It's the Lions.
Oh, and judging by...
Yeah,
and to be fair...
And they're going to.
To be fair, the Colts do have a schedule that is very set up for, like, easy drives in terms of Pittsburgh, Chicago, Buffalo, Detroit. And when I say easy, obviously I'm a little bit in quotes there, but we went to the Bulldog to watch the IU Mich game with the kids on Saturday, and Mafia had a full table.
Oh yeah,
and I'm like,
I saw them all over the city,
and I went up to him like, walk me through this, like why? And they're like, well, when you look at our schedule, this is one of the closer home games, so we're gonna be there, we're gonna be loud, and boy, were they that. Maurice killing me softly with ineptness.
Solid Fuji's reference right there.
It is a slow kill for the Colts, is it not? Like, you're not just terrible like a 1 or 2 win team. Like, they gave you a little bit of hope this season.
Andrew, thank God for Benedict Matherin. would agree,
I mean,
Andrew.
are we ever going to argue about him starting? Like, that's over, right?
Yeah,
the Benedict Matherin, like, that's over. We don't need to have we have Carlisle on tomorrow. We don't, when guys get back and they're healthy, like, we don't need to worry about that. This guy is kind of like saving your season right now.
It's over. He's just, he's a DAWG. He's a dog.
He's a dog.
Dog.
Josh had a good one. He said, win now, more like meltdown.
That's the issue. Like, right, I mean, that's the issue. Like, you made the move not to be a dumpster fire. You made the move for that position not to be the reason why you've lost. If you want to boil it down simply, you have lost these last 2 weeks because of quarterback play.
1,000%.
You could strongly make the case. That is the reason.
Well, yeah, again, the defense scored your only touchdown last week, so yeah.
I just did the exercise with you. Let's live in La La Land. Let's eliminate the turnovers, okay? You're 7 of 23 on third down. You have 1 touchdown and 14 real drives. If you want to eliminate the turnovers and try to play in a fairy tale world, you still aren't getting it done. So, what do you think?
Jason says mock draft time.
2:30 today. What do you think Steichen says when asked about the quarterback?
Boy, I still think he's going to give you the Flacco's the guy right now. I think he's going to give you the standard line, and then to me, he can make his decision to go back to Anthony Richardson tomorrow, right? After the coordinators talk with the media. This is exactly what they did with Flacco, and they've done with other players. And then, we'll meet the media at 3 o'clock, and we'll talk about it on Thursday. That's my guess.
Will we get the we're evaluating everything?
Oh, I love that sound. What's that? Say it again.
Will we get the we're evaluating it? Because that's what we got. We're evaluating everything.
I'm going to guess and say no. He's just going to give you the same. Right now, Joe's our guy. He's had a couple bad games, but Joe right now is our guy. He's going to keep saying Joe's our guy. He's going to keep saying right now. He's going to keep saying we're going to get back to work and clean things up.
Well, you know what that means.
What does that mean?
Flacco revenge game on Sunday.
Oh, hell yeah.
His former team.
I tell you, Aaron Rodgers looks a lot like Joe Flacco.
So he got hurt. Was it concussion and then got cleared? He was good? Because I saw him in the blue tent at one point. Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers? Oh, I didn't know that was the case.
He had to take a whiff of ayahuasca, I think.
Yeah. They gave him some smelling salts.
Come on, Aaron. Let's get you going. Get in the darkness for a minute and take a whiff of this.
Aaron's medical tent probably looks a little different than others.
Yeah.
He had 150.
Why is there smoke coming out of there?
He had 150 yards in 35 attempts. 4 yards.
Breaks my heart.
Favored by 3.
Absolutely crushes my soul.
Over the Colts here. Coming up Sunday, 1 o'clock, you will get Andrew Catalan and company once again.
All right, there are your weekend headlines. We'll take a break. We'll take your final calls. We'll wrap up the show. It's a Monday on the Fan.
Did you guys stay up for Texans-Lions?
I got to be honest, I did not stay up. I fell asleep.
I just had
Third quarter.
feeling that Man Campbell is going to get it done. First off, his halftime interview was just incredible with Melissa Stark just predicting the future. They pick off C.J. Stroud on the first play of the third quarter.
He's great.
And now they have life. So, Mark, walk us through this. In the final, Bates hits a 58-yard field goal. Lions kicker. This dude was a brick salesman a year ago. Hits a 58-yarder. Andy, we're talking kisses it off the right up.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
just as close as you can get.
Yeah, I've seen the replays, yeah.
So he hits that 58-yarder to tie it with 5 minutes to go. Fairbairn, who we've seen him make all these long field goals.
Sure.
Houston's kicker misses from 58, and that was a shank. Misses from 58.
Wide left.
With 2 minutes to go. So now, Detroit's in great field position. But Detroit, doesn't really move it that substantially. They settle for a 52-yarder from Bates for the win. If he misses, it goes to overtime. And it is the closest thing to hitting the left upright as you can get. And it goes in.
Of course
This kid makes it from 58.
Of course
52.
it does.
Wasn't he in was it the Arena League? He was in
Yeah, he was
kicking for the Detroit team, right? Kicking for the Michigan team?
Yeah.
Good for him.
Unbelievable.
And now look at him.
2 kicks that by inches.
By inches. So you had 3 52-yard field goals or longer attempted in the final 5 minutes of the game. Houston missed theirs. Detroit made both theirs.
There were 14 possessions in the second half total. That's a lot for the Lions and Texans. And the Texans might just be really mid.
We will.
That's enough for the AFC South, though.
Yeah, I mean, no,
just
it's
be
enough.
mid.
No, listen, they're going to win the AFC South.
Yeah,
they're
going
to
to
host
get Nico
a playoff
Collins
game.
and Will Anderson Jr. back.
Right.
I know their schedule still has a few hiccups, but
they'll win 10 games and they'll win the AFC
you're
South.
asking the Colts to go 5-2 the rest of the way.
Oh,
or
Lord
6-1 the rest of the way.
No.
Can't believe I said that.
By
By the way, this Eberflus radio interview in Chicago sounds awesome. Shout out to Adam Johns right here, one of the Bears beat reporters, says, Coach, your cell phone is bad as the offense right now. David Kaplan, as ESPN 1000 has lost connection with Matt Eberflus for a third time.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Third time.
God
Things
bless
are going
him.
swimmingly.
Yeah,
what a great David Kaplan comment right there.
Bears fans are going through it. Maybe, we'll do my most miserable teams in the NFL.
Oh,
the Bears aren't the worst team, but man, Mark, you guys might be the most miserable.
Yeah.
It's up there. It's top 2 or 3. It's bad.
Yeah.
They're pissed.
They should be. As they should be.
Well, the worry is
15, 9, and 3. That's the point totals you put up the last 3 games.
Listen, the worry is you ruin Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot like Anthony Richardson. The worry is you ruin your young quarterback.
One Richardson-related question that I have for this week, Andy, is this thing an off-the-field punishment? And how long does it last? Again, I have asked Shane Steichen in the most direct manner I can about that, and he has said no. Made it obvious. But, I go back to that first press conference we had, right after they made the announcement, Flacco to Richardson. Why? And he uses the word professional on a couple different occasions. Why? The Colts are saying nothing. Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, nothing.
Professional.
They're giving 0.
What does that word mean? Does it mean Monday through Saturday? Does it mean there's a quarterback standard? There's a preparation. There's an on time. There's a Tuesday. I'm asking about work ethic. I mean, all these things. And every chance you get to try and be more direct with Shane, immediately downplays it.
Well, the other thing is...
I can't get it off my mind, though.
Well, listen, I agree with you. In fact, I think it is. To not have a package to run Anthony Richardson in short yardage situations as a decoy, something creative. I mean, those Philadelphia offenses, that he coached under, it was just, there was creativity with a lot of stuff, and it's lacking. And then, listen, Kenny Moore, I love what he said. I still think he's talking mostly about guys on the defense. But what if he's not? I mean, that's the other side. What if part of, we're talking about practice and being dialed in and, being dialed in out of practice, being in the facility. Zaire Franklin talked about that yesterday. If some of that stuff isn't just all defensive players. So they're not saying anything. For them not to have, to keep him engaged and to have something for him on a 3rd and 2 when Joe Flacco on these 3rd and 4th downs has been terrible. To me, you will never not convince me that there's not a punishment aspect of what's going on with Anthony Richardson. I'm not saying it's all. The problem is he maybe is being punished, but his play on the field looked like he also wasn't dialed in. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So for him, it was a double whammy.
Mark, who should we go to call-wise? We got a couple hanging in there.
Start with Brent.
Hey, Brent.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for taking the call. Just a couple of things. First thing I wanted to do, shout out the Pacers. I was at the game yesterday. It was a great game to see them back in form. Mathurin was absolutely cooking, and I think that he has more than earned a spot in the starting lineup, regardless of when Nembhard comes back. One thing that was great yesterday was when Halliburton and Mathurin were on the court at the same time, all the offense was flowing through Tyrese. And you can see that, 14 assists, both of them above 30 points. And I think one of the problem with Pacers' identity this year is when Nembhard and Tyrese are on the floor, Tyrese has been too much off ball, and it has changed the pace at which they run that offense. So that was a great thing to see. The second thing I wanted to comment on was to give somebody – I am not a Colts fan. The Colts kind of lost me post-Andrew Luck with the nonstop floundering, lack of vision, lack of direction. I've never really thought that Chris Ballard has done a good job with this team. Just look at wins and losses. But in listening to the show this morning, I think every Colts fan and also every Colts player in the locker room, they need to thank Kenny Moore for having the courage to say things that Shane Steichen doesn't. All you hear is an empty trope, almost cliche, oh, it's on me, it's on me. I think it's a lack of courage to actually stand up there and to not assign blame, but to share accountability. And I think by not doing so, you guys talk about complacency, players being comfort, running it back. You see that. It couldn't be more obvious. I mean, look at nothing beyond wins and losses in this entire Chris Ballard era. The Colts are uninspiring. They're boring, and it's just apathy. So, I mean, I continue to observe the Colts, but just from somebody who has, worked in leadership and in management, I applaud what Kenny Moore had to say, and somebody should give him a call and say, hey, ask him about the Richard situation. Like, give me your insight. Why isn't he playing? And Steichen not being able to get away from Flacco, it seems like he doesn't want to go back on his own decision. And, what that is ego. And so, and one last thing, Andy, Country Roads in Germany, that's a big song that they sing at Oktoberfest. That's why they like that song.
Oh, I know. We had Machine Gun Kelly leading the charge yesterday. It's not the song. It's Machine Gun Kelly.
Brent, tremendous call. Call more often, Brent. I thought that was great.
That was good.
Hell, I wanted to get to his Pacers thoughts. Just one quick little Pacer thing. Halliburton and Mathurin doing that together. That's an important thing.
Yes,
Let's
it
not
is.
lose sight of that. Because there's been all this talk about, hey, what about these two in the lineup together, et cetera, et cetera. Can you build on that? Can you get more of that? I think that was an important element. His Kenny Moore thoughts in general, Andy, or I guess his lack of Shane Steichen comments, I guess, was in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, you can say nothing, and people, if you're winning games, then you're an old gruff Bill Belichick type. But when you're losing games and there's a lot going on, people are calling out the locker room, all the Flacco, Anthony Richardson stuff. You're an offensive coach, and the offense stinks. You're losing football games. Then it gets on people's nerves, and we are to the point where the empty words from Shane Steichen in these press conferences are getting to people, and I don't blame them. I mean, we play the sound. I listen to it every week. It's enough.
I don't want to silo coaches into two groups, but it seems like right now you can make hires, Andy, that are rooted in major leadership. Dan Campbell, Raheem Morris, kind of those types of hires. Or, and again, I bring up those two because Dan Campbell was a coaching candidate for the Colts in 2018. Raheem Morris, in my opinion, I think was the runner-up to Shane Steichen in this last coaching cycle. Or you can hire the young offensive mind. I get why the Colts wanted to go with the Shane Steichen hire. Quarterback had been such an issue for the franchise. But what you run into is when these moments arise for an organization and your offense is failing, where's that other element that you are the head coach of the football team?
Right.
And how do you handle that? You watch Dan Campbell. That man is not afraid to say anything. He'll be very public in his words, but there is a shared accountability or shared responsibility, to use Brent's term there, that I think is really healthy for an organization. And that was a difficult thing that we just didn't know with Steichen. That was the unknown about him. Whereas, for Campbell, hey, he's at an interim stint. For Raheem Morris, it had been a while ago, but he's had, head coaching experience, and you feel like the leader of men was the first thing. With Steichen, it was more of the offensive mind before you got to leader of men. And now, on his plate here in Week 11 of the NFL, Andy, he seemingly has got both of it.
Right.
Both questions.
No, he's got leader of men issues.
And maybe your locker room is failing.
Joe's our guy.
Yeah, and again, he's going to talk today. What time is that? 2 o'clock? 2:30 at some point today. So we have under a minute. Listen, Matt, Brian, Greg, we appreciate you hanging on hold. We just ran out of time today, and we apologize for that. We'll take more calls, and, Jake and Jimmy, and then JMV coming up at 3 o'clock. Go ahead.
I think I speak for all of us. Thought the Colts did some beautiful tributes yesterday. Certainly on this Veterans Day, we think about everybody that's made the sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice, and a sincere thank you to all of our troops and the men and women that have done so much for our country.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well said. There's no doubt about it. Definitely texting some buddies who were in the armed forces. We'll do that after the show. Check out the podcast, 1075thefan.com. Back at it tomorrow at 7 a.m. Have a good day on The Fan.